Brenda Holloway grabbed the 10-year-old boy by his wrist, twisted it behind his back, and hissed into his ear. "You touch that call button one more time, and I will have you dragged off this plane in handcuffs. You don't belong here. You never did." The child wasn't reaching for the call button. He was reaching for his brother's inhaler because his twin was turning blue in seat 2A of a first-class cabin cruising at 40,000 feet. And what Brenda didn't know, what she couldn't possibly have known, was that these two boys she had been tormenting for the last 6 hours were the sons of Donovan Banks, one of the most powerful CEOs in the Western Hemisphere, and he had just received a text message that would change everything. If this story doesn't make your blood boil, nothing will. Subscribe to this channel right now. Follow this story all the way to the end, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from, so I can see just how far this story travels. The boarding gate for Flight 274, London Heathrow to New York. JFK opened at exactly 6:15 in the evening. First-class passengers were invited to board, first the way they always were, with that polished announcement and that red carpet treatment that made economy passengers clutch their boarding passes a little tighter. Leo Banks held his brother's hand. Lucas was gripping back hard the way he always did when he was nervous, and right now, Lucas was very nervous. They were 10 years old. They had flown before dozens of times, actually, but never like this. Never without their mother. Never without their father. Never with this hollow, terrified feeling sitting in the pit of their stomachs like a stone. Their mother, Diane Banks, was lying in a hospital bed in London. Emergency surgery. A ruptured appendix that had turned septic. She had grabbed Leo's face with both hands right before the ambulance took her and said, "You take care of your brother. You get on that plane. Your father will be waiting in New York. I will be fine. Do you hear me? I will be fine." Leo had nodded. He hadn't cried. He wanted to cry, but he didn't because Lucas was already crying enough for both of them. Their father, Donovan Banks, had arranged everything from New York. First-class tickets, VIP escort through the airport, a private lounge coordinator who walked them to the gate and handed their documents to the gate agent with a smile. These two young gentlemen are VIP passengers, seat 2A and 2B. Their father is Donovan Banks. He's requested special attention for them during the flight. The gate agent had smiled warmly and said, "Of course, we'll take wonderful care of them." And for about 12 minutes after boarding, that promise held. Leo and Lucas settled into their seats. The leather was soft. The blankets were thick. Lucas immediately pulled out the stuffed elephant he still carried everywhere, even though he swore to his friends he didn't, and tucked it between his body and the armrest where nobody could see it. Leo opened his backpack, checked for the third time that Lucas's inhaler was in the front pocket, and zipped it back up. Lucas had asthma. Not the mild kind that shows up during gym class and goes away with a puff or two. The serious kind. The kind that had put him in the hospital twice before he turned 8. The kind that their mother never ever let him travel without 2 inhalers, a nebulizer, and an emergency action plan printed on laminated paper. Leo had all of it in his bag. He had checked 4 times. A flight attendant came by. Young woman, maybe mid-20s, with a warm face and a French accent. She knelt down beside their seats and said, "Hello there. Are you two flying alone today?" Leo nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Our dad is meeting us in New York." "Well, aren't you brave?" she said. "My name is Sophie. If you need anything at all during the flight, you press that button right there. Okay?" Lucas looked up at her with red-rimmed eyes and whispered, "Can I have some water, please?" Sophie smiled. "Of course, sweetheart. I'll bring you both some right away." She stood up and walked toward the galley, and that was the last kind interaction the twins would have for the next 7 hours. Because that was when Brenda Holloway appeared. Brenda had been working first class on transatlantic flights for 22 years. She had outlasted 3 airline mergers, 4 service directors, and more complaints than HR could file. She was 56 years old, built like a woman who had never once doubted herself, and she carried herself through the first-class cabin like it was her living room, and every passenger in it was a guest she had personally approved. She came around the corner from the galley, and she stopped. She looked at seat 2A. She looked at seat 2B. She saw 2 black boys 10 years old sitting in first class, and her face changed. It didn't change the way people's faces change when they're surprised. It changed the way people's faces change when they're offended. "Excuse me," she said. Not warmly, not curiously. The way someone says it when they already believe a mistake has been made. "What are you two doing here?" Leo looked up. "We're passengers, ma'am. Seats 2A and 2B. Brenda's eyes narrowed. Passengers, in first class. Yes, ma'am. And where are your parents? Our dad is in New York. He's picking us up at the airport. Brenda folded her arms. So you're telling me 2 children are sitting in first class alone with no adult supervision? Leo reached into the seat pocket and pulled out the boarding passes. He held them up. Here, these are our tickets. These are our... Brenda took the boarding passes. She looked at them for a long time. Longer than anyone would need to read 2 boarding passes. She flipped them over. She held them up to the light like she was checking for counterfeit currency. Then she handed them back without a word and turned on her heel. Lucas whispered, Leo, she doesn't like us. Leo whispered back, It's fine, just be quiet and don't bother anyone. But it was not fine. 3 minutes later, Brenda came back. This time she had the passenger manifest in her hand. She stood over the twins and said, I've checked the system. I see your booking. But I want you to understand something. First class is not a playground. It is not a daycare. The passengers in this cabin are executives, dignitaries, and professionals who have paid a great deal of money for peace and comfort. If I hear one noise, one disruption, one complaint from anyone in this cabin about the 2 of you, I will personally move you to the back of the plane. Are we clear? Leo stared at her. His heart was pounding, but his face didn't show it. Yes, ma'am. I didn't hear you, Brenda said, leaning closer. Yes, ma'am. Leo said again louder. And you? Brenda turned to Lucas. Lucas was holding his stuffed elephant under his arm, and his lower lip was trembling. Yes, ma'am, he whispered. Brenda looked at the elephant. What is that? It's nothing, Lucas said quickly, trying to push it behind him. It's a toy, Brenda said. First-class passengers do not bring toys onto the aircraft. Put it away, or I'll confiscate it. Lucas shoved the elephant deep into his backpack with shaking hands, and Brenda walked away. Sophie came back a moment later with 2 glasses of water and 2 warm cookies on a small plate. She set them down on the tray tables and winked. There you go, gentlemen. She hadn't even made it back to the galley before Brenda intercepted her. Leo couldn't hear exactly what Brenda said, but he saw Sophie's face fall. He saw Sophie glance back at them with something that looked like guilt, and then Sophie disappeared into the back and didn't come near them again for the rest of the flight. 5 minutes passed. 10. The plane pushed back from the gate. The safety demonstration played. Leo held Lucas's hand during takeoff because Lucas always got scared during takeoff, and they sat there in silence trying to be invisible. The water Sophie had brought them was sitting on the tray tables untouched because neither boy wanted to do anything that might attract Brenda's attention. Then Brenda came back. She looked at the water. She looked at the cookies. Who gave you these? The other flight attendant, Leo said. Sophie. Brenda picked up both glasses of water. She picked up the plate of cookies. First-class refreshment service hasn't started yet. You'll receive service when everyone else does if you receive it at all. And she took the water and cookies away. Lucas looked at Leo with wide eyes. Leo, I'm thirsty. I know, just wait. She'll bring the service around. But she didn't. When first-class service began, Brenda moved through the cabin with precision. She offered champagne to the woman in 1A. She brought a whiskey neat to the man in 1C. She delivered a full appetizer spread to the couple in 3A and 3B. She personally arranged the cheese plate for the gentleman in 4A. She walked past seats 2A and 2B without stopping, without looking, without acknowledging they existed. Leo waited. He told himself she just hadn't gotten to them yet. He told himself she was busy. He told himself that if he was patient and polite, everything would be okay. 20 minutes passed. Every other first-class passenger had been served. Some were already on their second drinks. The cabin smelled like warm bread and grilled salmon. Leo pressed the call button. The call button chimed, and Brenda appeared in 4 seconds flat. What? Excuse me, ma'am. We haven't been served yet. Could we please get some water and maybe something to eat? Brenda tilted her head. I'll get to you when I get to you. Don't press that button again unless it's an emergency. She walked away. Lucas tugged on Leo's sleeve. Leo, my throat is really dry. I know, buddy. Just hang on. Another 30 minutes. Lucas started coughing. Not a deep cough yet, just a dry, scratchy cough, the kind that comes from not drinking anything for hours on a plane where the air is thinner and drier than anywhere on Earth. Leo pressed the call button again. Brenda appeared. Her face was granite. I told you not to press that button. My brother needs water. Please. He has asthma and the dry air makes it worse. He really needs something to drink. Brenda looked at Lucas. Lucas was coughing softly into his fist. He seems fine to me. He's not fine. He needs water. Please. I said, I'll get to you when I get to you. Now stop pressing that button, or I will confiscate your boarding passes and move you to economy.
Hello, Rue. How are you?
She turned and walked away. Leo's hands were shaking, not from fear anymore, from something else. Something that a 10-year-old shouldn't have to feel at 40,000 feet on a plane full of adults who could see what was happening and weren't doing a single thing about it. He unbuckled his seatbelt, stood up, and walked toward the galley. He got 3 steps before Brenda appeared in front of him like she had materialized from the air itself. Where do you think you're going? To get my brother some water. Sit down. He needs water. I said sit down. Passengers do not enter the galley. Sit down right now, or I will call the captain and have you restrained. Leo's voice cracked. Why are you doing this to us? We didn't do anything wrong. We just want some water. Brenda leaned down until her face was level with his, and she spoke in a voice so low that only Leo could hear it. I don't know how you got those tickets. I don't know who gave them to you. But I know you don't belong here. And I've been doing this job longer than you've been alive, so when I tell you to sit down and be quiet, you sit down and you be quiet. This is my cabin. Leo's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't let them fall. He turned around and walked back to his seat. Lucas was watching him. What did she say? Nothing. Don't worry about it. Leo, I really don't feel good. Leo reached into his backpack and pulled out a water bottle. Their mother had packed it. He had completely forgotten about it. He unscrewed the cap and handed it to Lucas, and Lucas drank like he hadn't had water in days. Brenda saw. She came over in 3 strides, took the water bottle out of Lucas's hands mid-drink and said, outside beverages are not permitted in first class. That's his water. Leo said, his voice rising for the first time. Our mom packed it for him. I don't care who packed it. Airline policy. No outside food or drink in the cabin. Then give us something to drink. Every head in first class turned. Brenda straightened up. She looked around at the other passengers with the expression of a teacher apologizing for a disruptive student. She gave a tight, practiced smile. I'm so sorry for the disturbance, everyone. I'm handling it. Then she looked down at Leo, and the smile disappeared. One more outburst like that, and I'm calling the captain. Do you understand me? One more. She took the water bottle and walked away. Lucas's coughing got worse. The dry, scratchy cough became a tighter cough, the kind that came from deeper in his chest, the kind that Leo recognized because he had heard it 100 times before, and every time he heard it, his mother's face would go pale, and she would reach for the nebulizer. Leo checked his watch. They had been in the air for 2.5 hours. 4.5 hours to go. He reached into his backpack and felt for the inhaler. It was there. Right where he'd put it. He pulled it out and held it under the blanket, because something in his gut told him that if Brenda saw it, she would take it too. Lucas, he whispered, take a puff. Lucas took the inhaler under the blanket, shook it, pressed it, and breathed in. The cough eased. Not completely, but enough. Leo kept the inhaler in his hand under the blanket for the next hour. At 4 hours into the flight, dinner was served. Brenda moved through the cabin again with the same efficiency, the same polished service, the same warmth for every passenger, except the 2 in 2A and 2B. When she reached their row, she didn't stop. Leo didn't press the call button this time. He was done asking Brenda for anything. Instead, he waited until Brenda was in the galley. Then he stood up and walked toward the man sitting in 1C. The man was probably in his 50s, silver hair, nice suit. He had been watching what was happening. Leo had seen him watching. Excuse me, sir, Leo said. I'm really sorry to bother you, but the flight attendant won't give me and my brother anything to eat or drink. My brother has asthma and he's not doing well. Could you please ask her to bring us some water? The man looked at Leo. He looked genuinely uncomfortable. Son, I'm sure she's just busy. I'm sure she'll get to you. She won't. She took our water away. She hasn't brought us anything for 4 hours. The man shifted in his seat. He opened his mouth to say something. Then Brenda appeared. Is this passenger bothering you, sir?
check.
She said, as if Leo were a stray that had wandered into the cabin.
California
The man looked between Leo and Brenda.
California.
No, he was asking for some water for his brother. Brenda put her hand on Leo's shoulder and
crab,
squeezed,
avocado,
not
bean,
gently.
cucumber.
I
would
apologize,
never
sir.
eat that.
I'll take care of it.
It's chicken? Wait, it's chicken?
She steered Leo back toward his seat and pushed him down into it. I
Listen,
told
if
you to
can
stay in
take
your
out
seat.
the
What part of that
imitation
don't you
crab and put chicken
understand?
in there, I'd be happy.
My brother is sick.
A lot of crunchies
Your
and
brother is
spicy
coughing.
mayo.
Children cough. It's not my problem. He has asthma,
That sounds
real
really good.
asthma. The
Hi,
kind where he can
Riley.
die if he
How
doesn't
are
get
you?
help. Brenda stared at him for 3 seconds.
My go-to
Don't be
is,
dramatic.
Like, cucumber roll.
She walked
which is
away,
just, like,
and the man in
sushi,
1C
the,
went back to
seaweed,
his steak.
The rice and the
Leo
cucumber.
sat back in his seat and felt something
Honey.
shift inside
Honey,
him.
honey.
Something cold and clear
How you
and much
grill
older
me?
than 10.
Honey, honey.
He pulled out his
Ah,
phone.
darling,
His
how are
father
you?
had given him the phone for emergencies.
It's faux
Only
crab.
for emergencies, Leo.
Oh.
Only when you really need me. This
Doing
was an
alright,
emergency.
but you're
He
doing
opened the
alright.
messaging
Doing
app
alright.
and typed
I
with
got my
shaking
coffee.
fingers.
It's not my
Dad,
normal coffee.
the flight attendant on our plane is
I don't
hurting
know
us.
where my
She
mocha
won't
went.
give us food or water. She took Lucas's water away. Lucas is
My
coughing
nap?
bad. She said she'd have us
Get a nap.
arrested. Please
You
help
like the
us.
new chat
I'm
box?
scared.
I got it commission.
He pressed send.
I like
The
it.
message went
It's nice.
through.
I think they did
He
a
saw
really
the
good
little
job.
check mark. He waited for the delivered confirmation,
I've
but
asked
the
them to
plane's
do a
Wi-Fi was
variation, which is,
spotty,
like,
and the
kinda
screen
blue
just showed
to
sending.
kinda mix with the
He put the
background a
phone
little
away
bit.
and looked at
Like,
Lucas. Lucas was asleep,
Hi,
or trying to sleep.
Nella. I
His
miss
breathing
you
was
guys.
shallow
I
and
wanna
fast,
meet
and
you.
even in the dim light of the cabin, Leo could see that
And
his
it's so
brother's
hard
lips
to
looked
be
darker than they should.
unemployed.
Leo put his hand
What
on
do you
Lucas's
mean?
forehead.
Oh,
It
it's
was
such a
hot
hard life.
and damp.
I want a nap. I'm gonna take a nap.
Lucas, hey,
I wanna take a
wake
nap.
up.
Because of the avocado.
Lucas opened his eyes. They were glassy.
Kind of like sometimes
I don't feel good,
avocado
Leo.
sushi.
I know.
No, I like all the
Take another
time.
puff. He held the inhaler up. Lucas took it, pressed it, breathed in. But this time the cough didn't ease. The wheeze stayed. It was getting louder, that high-pitched whistle
Sometimes
on the
people are
exhale
homebodies.
that
I'm
their
very
mother had
much
taught
like
Leo
that.
to listen for the sound
Like,
that
I
meant
like going
things were
out,
getting
not-
serious. Leo pressed the call button.
It's just,
Nobody came.
I would
He pressed
love
it
to be
again.
able to go out
Nobody
and
came. He
not
pressed it a third
interact with
time, holding
anyone
it
other
down,
than,
and Brenda
I don't know,
finally
my
appeared.
partner or my friends
What
and stuff
now?
like that.
My brother
But
can't breathe
unfortunately, the world
right.
does not
He
live
needs
like
help.
that.
Please, you have to help him.
I just
Brenda
get
looked at
very,
Lucas. Lucas was leaning forward in his seat,
very
his
annoyed.
hands gripping the
Very annoyed
armrests,
with
his
people
chest
around me.
pulling in with every
Like,
breath.
especially, like,
He's having a panic attack, Brenda said. Children get them all the time when they fly without their parents. He'll be fine. That's not a panic attack. He's having an asthma attack. He needs his nebulizer. He needs oxygen. He needs a doctor. Please. Brenda folded her arms. Lower your voice. He can't breathe. I said lower your voice. I am not going to disrupt this entire cabin because a child is hyperventilating.
Me normal?
Now sit down, keep him calm, and stop making a scene.
Oh my god, the coughing.
She turned to walk away, and Leo grabbed her
the
arm.
coughing.
He didn't
or
think about it.
Loud talking.
He didn't plan it.
Or the smoking
His
in areas
10-year-old
you shouldn't
hand
be
just reached
smoking
out
in,
and grabbed the
like,
arm of the woman who was
seconds.
letting
That's
his brother
really bad.
suffocate because that was all he had left. Brenda looked down at his hand like he had committed a crime.
Same energy. Yeah.
Remove your hand
But, like,
right now.
Like, I don't like.
Please help my brother.
I don't like going.
Remove your
out,
hand or I will restrain you.
to the shops.
Leo let go. His hand was shaking
like,
so
on a
badly he
Saturday
could barely
at
make a
all.
fist. Brenda
couldn't
reached into
think
her
of
apron, pulled out a zip
anything
tie, the kind they carried for
I would
unruly
literally go
passengers,
super
and
early
she
in the
held it up
morning
so Leo could see it.
or during the
If you
week.
touch me again, if you leave
I
that
can't
seat
think of
again,
anything
if you
worse.
press
It
that
is
button one more
really
time,
annoying.
I will restrain you in your seat for the remainder of
I
this
just-
flight and hand
I
you
don't
over
know,
to
I just
police when
find
we
that there's
land.
more
Try
angry
me.
people and people
She
just
put the
not
zip
being
tie
very
back in her
nice.
apron and walked
I'm just
away.
like,
Leo couldn't feel his legs. He couldn't feel his face. The cabin was spinning around him,
Work
and
in
the only
retail,
thing that
fuck
was
that.
real, the only
I've
thing
done
that
my
was
time in
solid,
retail
was the
and
sound
I'm
of his
so
brother's
good.
breathing getting
I'm
worse.
literally-
Lucas's
I'm
wheeze had
not
become a
gonna lie.
rasp.
I'm
The inhaler
literally
wasn't
so
enough
good.
anymore.
I'm like,
Leo knew
great.
what that meant. His mother had drilled it into him 100 times. If the inhaler
so
doesn't
good.
work
I don't
after
want
2 puffs, you get help. You don't wait.
Deal
You
with
don't try to
twats?
handle
Yeah,
it
fuck
yourself.
that.
You get an adult and you tell them it's an emergency. He had tried.
Is an
God,
Overwatch
he had
enjoyable?
tried. He pulled out his phone
Bless.
again. The message to his father still showed
I
sending.
don't know if I could get it back.
He
into
switched
Overwatch. I
off
have so
airplane
many
mode.
hours in that game.
The Wi-Fi was
I have
weak,
so many
but
gold
it connected.
guns. I have so.
He typed
But I've
another
got so
message.
many. I have poo.
Dad, please.
I have
Lucas is
Junkrat
having a
and,
bad attack.
Mercy
The
and
inhaler isn't
Rachel.
working. She won't help us. Nobody will help us. I don't know what to do.
Scream! Oh, but
This
bro,
time,
the
the
amount of
message
people that
delivered.
scream at you-
3,000 miles away. Donovan Banks
in
was sitting
retail
in his
is
office on the
wild. And
42nd
then
floor
not
of a
even just
building
that,
he
your
owned,
bosses as well.
reviewing a merger
Oh
that
my
would make
God,
the evening
actually
news when
insane.
his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen.
Actually insane.
He read the
I'd
message.
rather not.
And the merger, the building, the evening news,
Is a
all
breath
of
of
it
fresh air.
disappeared.
Oh,
He
okay, I
read the
know what you
message
mean.
again.
People that
Then
are
he
like
read the
minded.
first
Yeah, yeah,
message
yeah.
that had finally come through
It
right
is-
behind it.
It's quite
His hands
refreshing
went
being around
still.
people that
His
are
jaw
like-minded,
locked.
So I get it.
Something in his
I get
chest
it.
cracked open that was so deep and so primal that the man
How I
sitting
still
across the
find
desk from
cat
him,
fur in
his
my
chief
eyes.
counsel, looked up and said,
Cassidy!
"Donovan, what's wrong?"
Hi,
Donovan didn't
Cassidy.
answer.
How are you?
He was
Thank you for
already
the
dialing.
15.
He called the airline.
15
He didn't ask for
streak?
customer service.
Oh my
He
God.
called the CEO directly.
We're
Donovan
streaking,
Banks
we're
didn't wait in
streaking.
phone queues. He didn't
Getting
navigate
good.
automated menus. He called Richard Carmont, the
gives you
CEO
guys
of
extra
Horizon
points.
Air, on his personal cell phone, because that was the kind of man Donovan Banks was. Richard answered on the second ring. Donovan, what a surprise. Richard listened to me very carefully. My two sons are on Flight
Streaking? No, I don't
274,
wanna see your
London to
fans.
JFK. A flight attendant on that plane is abusing them. My son Lucas is having a severe asthma attack, and
No
she is
one's for
refusing to
you.
help. I need you to get the captain of that
No
aircraft
one's-
on the radio right now, and I need medical attention given to my son
Is it
immediately.
Silver Fox?
Do you understand me? There was silence on the other
I'm
end.
going to be playing the rest of Resident
Richard,
Evil 9 today.
do you understand
gotta
me?
finish it off.
Donovan,
Silverback
I'm sure there's been a
gorilla.
misunderstanding. My
So you
10-year-old
go
son
around on your
texted me
knuckles?
that a flight attendant restrained his brother and denied
A
him water
bread?
for 4 hours
We're
while he was having a
tired,
medical
boy.
emergency.
Oh, I could go for some
There is
bread.
no
I
misunderstanding.
could go for some
Get the
focaccia
captain on the
bread.
radio. Now. Or I promise you, Richard, by the time that plane lands, I will own your airline.
hope I can
And the
find a
first
bread
thing I will do
tomorrow.
is fire
I really
every
wanna
single
get some bread
person who
pub.
had anything to
I
do
mean,
with what
really
is happening to
good.
my
I've
sons
been
right
chilling
now.
and vibing.
Richard
I've been
Carmont had
working my whole
known Donovan
bunch.
Banks for 15 years.
Relaxing
He had
this
seen him
week,
negotiate. He had
this
seen him angry.
weekend.
He had
I'm
never
really
heard
glad
his
that I went
voice
to
sound like
chiro
this.
yesterday 'cause I've been getting,
I'm
like,
making the
little pins
call,
and needles in my
Richard said.
arms and stuff, so
Back on the plane,
making
Leo
sure to
sat
look
in the
after
dark
myself
cabin
and do
and
my
held his
hair.
brother's hand. Lucas's breaths were short and ragged now,
Sourdough
and his eyes were
toast.
half closed.
But like
The
thick
inhaler sat
kind.
on the tray table,
Mm.
useless.
The thick
Stay with me,
sourdough
Lucas,
toast.
Leo whispered.
If you haven't
Just
tried
keep
it,
breathing.
I highly
Dad knows. Dad is coming. Just
if you
keep
go
breathing.
Coles or
Lucas
Woolies, there's
squeezed his
sour-
hand.
sourdough,
Barely.
crackers
Just
you can
enough
get
for
that are
Leo to
really
feel it.
nice.
And
What's a
somewhere
bear-
below
wait,
them, invisible in the dark
what's a
Atlantic
bear
night,
called?
Donovan Banks was making phone
Oh,
calls that would
we
end
have a good
careers,
cheese,
destroy
bacon
reputations,
and cheese
and bring a
pulled apart
reckoning
from
to
Big
everyone who
Side.
had looked the
They
other
do
way
something
while his
sharp
son
shit.
suffered. But the plane was still 3 hours from New York. And Lucas was getting
I'm trying to
worse.
stream more.
Lucas's
So I
grip on
stream,
Leo's
like,
hand went limp,
Friday,
not
Saturday,
loose,
4:30
not
to whatever.
relaxed.
But
Limp.
then Mondays, I'm
The
doing
kind
like
of limp that
12:30
happens when a
till
body
about
stops
5,
fighting,
5:30.
and Leo felt it like an electric shock through his entire arm.
So it's a little
He shook his
different to what
brother's
we're
hand.
used to, but I'm trying.
Lucas.
I'm trying.
Lucas
Just
squeezed
have to
my
have
hand.
work. I have to do work
Nothing.
and stuff, so
Lucas, open your eyes. Lucas's
I got bills
eyelids
to pay
fluttered,
and
but didn't
stuff, so-
open. His chest was still moving, barely each breath, a
hoping
thin
with
whistle that
Battlefront
sounded
to
like
have a
air
whole
being pushed
week of
through a
streaming.
cracked straw. Leo unbuckled his
That'll be
seatbelt and
fun.
put
You
both
guys will get
hands on his
salty
brother's
patties.
face. Lucas's skin was clammy. His lips had gone
Oh my
from
God,
dark
big
to
fan.
almost
Hi,
gray.
Cox. How are you?
Lucas, please,
Alongside
please wake up.
donuts.
Please.
Ooh.
Lucas's
I like
mouth
pastries,
opened
so I
slightly,
could deal with
and a
that.
sound
I
came
like-
out, not a word,
Like
not a
Krispy
cough,
Kremes.
just a small, desperate
Krispy Kremes.
moan that was worse than any scream Leo had ever heard. 5 hours and
The original
42
glazed.
minutes into the flight,
Original glazed
Leo
is
stood up.
boss.
He didn't care
More
about
fire.
Brenda. He didn't care about the zip ties.
And the jam
He didn't
one.
care
No
about being
cream.
dragged off the plane
No
or
cream in
handed
my
to
jam.
police or
I don't
any of the
want
threats
it.
that woman had
I don't
made.
want it.
His brother was
No.
dying. He could see it. He could feel it. And every second he spent sitting in that seat being obedient was a second
cinnamon
closer to
donut.
losing the only person in this world who had been with him since before they were
Original
born.
glazed
He stepped
tickle
into
my
the aisle
eyes.
and screamed. Not a word. Not a
So I
sentence.
shall eat
A
your
sound.
eyes?
A raw animal sound that ripped out of a 10-year-old boy who had been holding everything together for 6 hours and couldn't hold it anymore.
Is an almond
Every
croissant?
single
Ew.
person in first class turned. Somebody help me.
That doesn't sound
My
nice.
brother is dying. Please,
What's your
somebody
sound
help
called?
me. He can't breathe. The man in
But
1C
almond-
stood up halfway.
No.
The woman in 3A put her
No,
hand
I'm
over her
good.
mouth.
I'm good.
The couple in 4A and 4B looked at each other with wide
Look at my
eyes,
little
the
dude,
kind
he
of
looks a little
eyes people
tired.
get when they realize something terrible is happening,
Tired dude.
and they don't know what to do about it.
Yeah,
Brenda
I'll give you
came out of the
buttons,
galley like a bullet.
correlated.
Sit down, right now. My brother is dying. Your
Sacrilege,
brother
what
is
do you
fine.
mean?
Sit down.
You want nut in
Look
your
at him.
croissant?
Look at
That's
his face.
crazy.
He's turning
I
gray.
don't want
He
nut
needs a
in my
doctor right now.
croissant.
Brenda grabbed Leo's arm and yanked him toward the seat. Leo pulled back. He planted his feet and pulled with everything he had, and for one impossible second, a 10-year-old boy held his ground against a grown woman because the adrenaline in his veins had turned him into something stronger than a child. Let go of me. He needs help.
There might be some fancy magic.
Brenda's face flushed red. She tightened her grip and twisted. I am going to say this one more time. Sit down. No. The word rang through the cabin like a gunshot. The man in 1C finally spoke. Ma'am, maybe you should check on the other boy. He really doesn't look well. Brenda turned her head toward him, and her voice came out sweet as poison. Sir, I appreciate your concern, but I have the situation under control. These children have been disruptive since boarding, and I'm handling it according to protocol. Protocol, the man said, his voice rising slightly. The child looks like he can't breathe. He is hyperventilating. It's a common anxiety response in unaccompanied minors. I've seen it 100 times. That doesn't look like hyperventilating to me. Sir, with all due respect, are you a medical professional? The man hesitated. No, but then please allow me to do my job. She turned back to Leo, and the man in 1C sat down. He sat down. He looked at his lap, and he sat down, and Leo watched the last adult who might have saved his brother surrender without a fight. Brenda pushed Leo into his seat and held him there with one hand while she reached into her apron with the other.
I don't know, man.
She pulled out a zip tie.
I don't really go out.
I warned you, she said. I told you what would happen. Please don't. Please, I'll sit down. I'll be quiet. Just help my brother. Please, that's all I'm asking. Brenda looped the zip tie around Leo's right wrist and attached it to the armrest. She pulled it tight. Not snug. Tight. The plastic bit into his skin, and Leo gasped. She reached for another one and did the same to his left wrist. A 10-year-old boy zip-tied to his seat at 40,000 feet with his dying brother next to him, and not a single person on that plane willing to stop it. Leo stopped screaming. He stopped begging. He looked at Brenda with an expression that no child should ever have to wear, an expression that was beyond fear, beyond anger, somewhere in that terrible quiet place where a person realizes they are completely alone. God sees you, Leo whispered. He sees exactly what you're doing. Brenda's face twitched, just for a second. Just a flicker across her eyes like a crack in a mask. Then it was gone. Save the sermon, she said, and walked away. 6 hours into the flight, Leo turned his head toward Lucas. He couldn't reach him. His hands were tied to the armrests, and he couldn't reach his brother, who was sitting 18 inches away. He couldn't touch his face. He couldn't hold his hand. He couldn't give him the inhaler that was sitting in the backpack at his feet. The inhaler that Brenda had taken from him earlier, the backup inhaler that was still in the bag if he could just reach it. Lucas, can you hear me? A tiny nod, barely visible. I need you to breathe okay, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Slow. Like Mom taught us. Remember, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Lucas tried. His chest expanded slightly, then collapsed with a wheeze that sounded like tearing paper. Good. That's good. Again. Slower. Lucas tried again. And again. Each breath was a battle, and Leo could see his brother losing. Dad knows, Leo said. Dad got our message. He's going to fix this. You just have to hold on. Can you hold on for me? Lucas's eyes opened. They were red and wet, and filled with something that Leo would remember for the rest of his life. Not pain, not fear. Trust. Complete, absolute trust. His little brother looked at him with everything he had left, and trusted that Leo would keep him alive. Leo's chest cracked open, and the tears he had been holding since London finally fell. 6 hours and 20 minutes into the flight. 3,000 miles away, Donovan Banks was no longer sitting at his desk. He was standing in the back of a black SUV racing toward JFK Airport, and he was on his fourth phone call in 30 minutes. The first call had been to Richard Carmont, the CEO of Horizon Air. That call had ended with Richard stammering promises and Donovan hanging up on him. The second call had been to his personal attorney, a man named Gerald Whitmore, who had won 11 of the 12 largest civil cases in New York in the last decade. Gerald, I need you to file an emergency injunction against Horizon Air within the hour. I need every camera on that plane
Yeah.
preserved.
Crazy.
I need the crew manifesto. I need the name, address, and employment history of every flight attendant working first class on Flight 274 tonight. And Gerald, I need you to understand something. When that plane lands, someone is going to prison. I don't care what it costs. I don't care how long it takes. Someone is going to prison.
Red cookies we had that had like
Gerald had said, I'm already on it. The third call had been to his head of security, a former Secret Service agent named Marcus Cole. Marcus, I need a full extraction team at JFK Gate, 47 Terminal 4. Paramedics on standby. I want EMTs with pediatric training and a mobile oxygen unit. My son Lucas is having a severe asthma attack and has been denied medical care for approximately 6 hours. I also need private security to escort the flight crew off that plane the moment it touches down. Nobody leaves. Nobody. Marcus had said, we'll be there in 40 minutes. The fourth call was the one that mattered most. Donovan called his son. The phone rang. It rang 4 times, and each ring lasted a lifetime. Then Leo answered, and Donovan heard his son's voice, and it sounded like a voice that had been broken and rebuilt and broken again, all in the span of a few hours. Dad? Leo, I'm here. I'm right here. Dad, Lucas is really bad. He's barely breathing. She tied my hands to the seat. I can't reach him. I can't help him. Dad, I'm so scared. Donovan closed his eyes. His hand was gripping the phone so hard that his knuckles had turned white. Listen to me, Leo. Listen to my voice. I have already called the airline. I have called the captain of your plane. Medical help is coming to Lucas right now. Do you hear me? They are going to help him. Nobody's come. Nobody's helped us. They will. I promise you on my life they will. The captain has been notified. Now tell me exactly what's happening. Tell me everything. And Leo told him every detail. The water taken away, the food denied, the threats, the insults, Sophie being pulled away, the man in 1C who looked and looked away, the inhaler taken from his hands, the zip ties on his wrists, all of it, every hour of it. And Donovan listened, and as he listened, something in him became very quiet and very still, the way the ocean gets before a tsunami. Leo, what is her name? Brenda. I heard one of the other crew call her Brenda. Leo, I need you to do something for me. Can you reach your phone? I'm using it right now. I kind of twisted my hand to get it. Good. I need you to open the camera. I need you to record everything that happens from this moment on. Can you do that? I think so. Hold on. Leo twisted his wrist against the zip tie, ignoring the pain, and switched to the camera app. He hit record and propped the phone between his leg and the armrest angled toward the aisle. Okay, it's recording. Don't stop it. No matter what happens, don't stop recording. Okay, Dad. I'm landing in 2 hours. When that plane touches down, I will be at the gate. Do you hear me? I will be right there. Dad, what if Lucas doesn't make it 2 hours? Donovan's voice didn't break. He wouldn't allow it to break because his son needed a rock right now, not a father who was falling apart.
Dates are quite expensive.
He will. Your brother is strong. You are strong. You have kept him alive this whole time, Leo. Do you understand that you did that? Not the airline, not the crew, you. And you're going to keep doing it for 2 more hours, because that's who you are. Leo swallowed hard. Okay. I love you, both of you. More than everything. I love you too, Dad. The call ended, and Donovan set the phone down on the seat beside him. He stared straight ahead for exactly 3 seconds. Then he picked the phone back up and made a 5th call. This one was to a friend at CNN. 6 hours and 40 minutes into the flight, something changed on the plane. Leo noticed it before anyone else. The intercom crackled, and a voice came through that wasn't Brenda's. It was the captain's voice, deep and measured, but with an edge that hadn't been there during the welcome announcement 7 hours ago. Brenda, come to the flight deck immediately. Brenda, who had been arranging after-dinner drinks in the galley, stopped what she was doing. She looked at the intercom speaker on the wall, like it had spoken to her in a language she didn't understand. In 22 years of flying, the captain had never summoned her by name over the intercom. She straightened her uniform, smoothed her hair, and walked toward the flight deck with the confidence of a woman who had never once been told she was wrong. She was gone for 9 minutes. Leo counted every one. When she came back, something in her face had shifted. Not a lot. Not enough for most people to notice. But Leo had been watching this woman's face for 6 hours, studying it the way a
Okay.
prisoner
Okay,
studies
you
his
got me, you
guard,
got me.
and he saw the change.
Do I pour it
The
on
absolute
some
certainty
salty
was still there,
popcorn,
but
or
underneath
just,
it,
like, normal
something was
salty
moving.
popcorn,
Something small and
or
cold. Something that might have been the first tremor of doubt. She walked past the twins without looking at them and went into the
I'll show you
galley.
guys some artworks.
30 seconds later, Sophie appeared.
So obviously I received
The young
this
French
chat
flight
box
attendant
today,
who had
which
been
I
kind to them at the
really love.
beginning, who had brought them water and cookies, and then vanished for
I
hours,
got some
came
art
down the
of the
aisle
girls
carrying
in
a
it.
glass of water and an oxygen canister. She
Okay,
knelt
let me
beside
read that.
Lucas's seat. Her hands were
I'm
shaking.
really happy with how
Hey
they
there,
set it
sweetheart.
up. Regular
I'm going to
popcorn
help you breathe a
kernels?
little
Yeah.
easier, okay? She placed the
Let me
oxygen mask
see.
gently over Lucas's nose and
I think
mouth
they turned
and
out
turned
really
the
good.
valve. The hiss of oxygen filled the space between them. Leo stared at her. Where were you? Sophie looked at him, and her eyes were wet. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. She told me not to come near you. She said she would file a report and have me
Not
terminated.
pre-flavored
I should
stuff?
have-
Okay, so just
I should have come
non-pre, that's
anyway. I'm sorry. Can you take these
fine. Had to
off?
do it on the stove?
Leo
I
held
don't-
up his wrists.
I know, like,
The
Americans
zip ties had
have
left
that
red marks that
popcorn
were starting to turn purple.
that is, like,
Sophie
silver
looked at
and
the
they
zip
put it on the
ties, and her
stove.
face crumbled. She pulled a pair of scissors from her apron
is that
and
a
cut
thing?
them off one at a time gently like she was diffusing a bomb. When Leo's
Yeah, I'm
hands were
trying to get
free,
them-
he immediately reached over and grabbed
them
Lucas's
all
hand.
up.
Lucas's fingers were cold, but they curled around
No?
Leo's. The captain called
Or
the
in a
airline,
pan?
Sophie said
Don't you
quietly.
just, like, put some
Someone
oil or
very
butter in
important
the
called
pan
the
and then just
CEO.
put the popcorn
I don't know
kernels?
the details, but Brenda has been ordered to
Like,
stand
isn't
down.
that a thing?
The captain is furious. I've never seen him this angry. Is Brenda going to come back?
Ta-da!
Sophie hesitated. I don't know, but I'm not leaving you again. I promise. 7 hours into the flight. The oxygen
I
was
just
helping.
normally do mine in the
Lucas's
microwave.
breathing was still labored, but the horrible gray color was retreating from his lips. His
Look
eyes
how
were
cute
open
these
now,
are, dude.
and he was looking at Leo
get
with an
them all and
expression
then,
that made Leo's throat close up.
We'll go through them.
You stayed,
Yeah.
Lucas whispered through the
Megafauna
mask.
did these.
Of
They did
course I stayed.
amazing.
Where was I going to go?
There's our coffee one,
A
which I
tiny
think is so
smile.
cute 'cause we all
Just a
love
ghost of
coffee.
one.
Coffee,
But it
coffee.
was there. Mom's going to be so mad,
I'm
Lucas said.
hoping-
Mom's going to be
She
furious.
did give
Is Dad coming?
us the
Dad's already there. He's at the airport waiting for
the
us.
commercial licensing.
Is he mad?
Licensing with these. Hi,
Leo
Anthony,
looked at his
how are
brother
you?
and thought about the voice
So
on
you
the
can always
phone.
do them as
Not the
stickers.
words his
Let me
father
move
had
myself
said,
down here.
but the silence between them.
So yeah, these
The
are
stillness. The wait. Yeah,
like
buddy.
the new ones I got
Leo
of the
said.
girls and I, so the vibe
Dad's
tapes and
mad.
stuff.
7 hours and 15 minutes.
I
Brenda
think
came
they're
back
really
out of the
cute.
galley.
I think they turned
She
out-
had
I
been in
love
there for over
our
30
two
minutes,
mascots
and when she
together. I
emerged,
love
she
them
was
so
wearing her
much.
composure like armor. Whatever the captain had said to her, whatever order had come down from the airline, she had absorbed it and reconstituted
Tucker
herself
fucker?
into the
What's a
same
tucker
woman she had
fucker?
always been.
Huh?
She walked through the first-class cabin doing a final
Yay, they did
cabin check before
amazing.
descent
I'll get you their
preparation.
Legion. They're really nice.
She adjusted a
I
pillow
worked with
here,
them
collected a
bunch.
glass
They did my
there.
panels and stuff.
When she reached row
And,
2, she stopped. She looked at Leo.
Microwave. Oh,
She looked at Lucas with the oxygen mask. She looked
Okay,
at
that's
Sophie
fair.
kneeling beside them. Sophie,
I think
you're
they
needed
did
in the
amazing.
galley for landing preparation. Sophie didn't move. I'm staying with these passengers.
Try it again. If it
I gave
doesn't
you an
work,
instruction.
I'll refund you
And
your
the captain
points.
gave me a different one. I'm staying. Brenda's jaw tightened. For 5 long seconds, the two
So this
women
is the
stared at
artist
each
we
other,
went to. They're
and the
really
entire
nice.
first-class
I think they
cabin
did
held its
amazing.
breath. Then Brenda smiled.
Could you imagine
Not
these
a
as
warm
stickers, though?
smile,
Oh my
a
God.
controlled smile.
Oh my
The
God.
smile of someone who has decided to wait.
Yeah, I really
Fine,
like them.
she said. Stay. She walked away, and Leo felt a chill run through him,
I don't
because that
understand why it's not
smile
working.
scared him more than
We'll give you your
anything she
points
had
back.
done all night. It was the
Delay.
smile of a woman who still believed she was
How
going
many
to
times
win.
do I have to- It's a
7
Twitch
hours
thing,
and 30
'cause
minutes.
I'm using
The
Twitch
captain's
alerts.
voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we are beginning our descent into New York's John F.
I'm
Kennedy
using the
International
Twitch alerts
Airport.
and, yeah.
Please return to your seats and fasten your
Crypto.
seatbelts. We will be on the ground in approximately 45 minutes. The current temperature in New York is 52 degrees. On behalf of the
good.
entire
Enjoy your
crew,
sleep.
thank you for flying
Can we get
Horizon
some
Air.
tucks for Cassidy?
45 minutes.
Tuck, 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 tuck.
Leo held Lucas's hand and counted the seconds. The plane descended through the
Hi,
clouds,
Tucker.
and the lights
How
of
are
New
you?
York appeared below them,
Hang on,
scattered
let me
like
show my
diamonds on black
Starbucks.
velvet. Leo pressed his forehead against the window.
Yeah, let me
Somewhere down there,
move
his
myself
father
up.
was waiting.
Bam.
His phone buzzed. A
Welcome,
text from
welcome,
Donovan.
welcome. I hope you're all chilling and
I'm at the
vibing.
gate.
Always everyone's supposed to
Paramedics
follow
are
the
ready.
stream. Oh,
Security is in place.
yeah, beautiful,
When those doors open, I'm coming to
Hi,
get you.
darling.
Hold on, son. You're almost home.
How was
Leo
that
typed
lunch?
back with one hand, his other hand never
Sometimes
leaving
people wanna go
Lucas's,
to bed
"We're
early.
here,
That's
Dad.
okay.
We made it."
That's okay.
7
Hi,
hours and
Captain.
58 minutes.
Hi.
The wheels
My
touched the
name's
ground
Bulbasaur.
and the
I'm a
plane
Bulbasaur
shuddered.
crossed with a cat.
The
I
passengers
played
barely
riding
reacted the
games,
way
trying my
frequent
best to
flyers
be
never
best.
do. But Leo felt
You just
every
got back into
vibration in his
Overwatch.
bones.
How was it?
He squeezed
Fucking
Lucas's
hell.
hand. We're
A
down.
bunch of people have been
We're
getting
on the
back into
ground.
it, especially
Lucas
with,
nodded behind the oxygen mask.
jetpack
His breathing
cabin.
was better, but still not right.
Overwatch's,
He needed a
thanks,
hospital.
man.
He needed real
Overwatch's,
treatment. He needed to be off this plane.
Jeff.
The
rust
aircraft
is
taxied
coming
toward the
off.
gate.
Is it that
It felt like it took
different?
hours. Every
Like,
turn,
especially with
every
the,
pause, every slow roll across the tarmac
stuff?
was an eternity.
What if I-
Brenda was standing near the front of the
I like
cabin,
them.
smoothing her
Yeah,
uniform, checking her reflection in the polished galley wall. She looked calm, composed, ready to open the door and smile at deplaning passengers the way she
Rival's
had
in a
done
weird
10,000
spot.
times before.
Yeah, I get it.
She had no idea what was on the other side of that
Not
door.
that fucking
The plane
cat.
stopped.
Oh, you don't like jetpack
The seatbelt
cat?
sign dinged off.
What did they do to you?
Passengers
What have
stood
they
up and
done?
reached for the overhead bins.
God, what if,
Brenda
what
moved
is
to the
cat
main
done?
cabin door and picked up the interphone.
A new
Welcome to
speed?
New York,
Yeah,
ladies and
here's-
gentlemen.
here's a
Please
bunch.
check your
Hey,
seats
there's
for
a
any
few,
personal belongings. The
boas.
jetway connected with a dull thud. Brenda reached for the door handle, and then there was a knock. Not from outside, from the flight deck. The captain's door opened, and Captain James Rowan stepped out. He was a tall man, early 60s, with a face that looked like it had been carved from oak. He walked
I like
past
how I can
Brenda
make
without
my ears, like,
acknowledging
super
her
big. Hang on.
and opened the main cabin door himself.
Say something?
The jetway was not empty. Standing on the other side were 12 people. 4 of them were paramedics in dark blue uniforms carrying medical bags and a portable stretcher. 4 of them were
Siege-
private
Siege is
security in black
interesting.
suits with
It's
earpieces.
kind of brutal.
2 of them were men in dark
I find it
overcoats who
kinda
looked like
brutal. I played it
lawyers.
a few times.
One
I'm
of them was a woman holding a camera with a press badge around her neck. And in front of all of them stood
was like,
Donovan Banks. He was 6'3". He was wearing a charcoal suit
That's
with no
okay.
tie,
Thank you for
and
the
his shirt
like, I
collar was
appreciate
open, and his eyes were the eyes of a man who had spent the last 3 hours turning grief into war.
6v6? I remember
He didn't look
getting
angry.
almost
He looked
eliminating
beyond
everyone,
angry.
Except one
He had
guy, and I
passed
was like,
through
okay, I've
anger
peaked in
hours
this
ago
game.
and
I
arrived
played
at a place that
Ash.
was colder and sharper and infinitely more dangerous.
I think that's Ash. She's the one that
He
has
looked
like
at the
drill
captain.
gun and stuff. Yeah.
Where are my sons?
It's still not a
Captain
Souls
Rowan
game.
stepped aside.
Thank you for playing with my
Row 2.
balls.
The paramedics should go first.
Yeah.
Donovan let the paramedics pass, and then he walked onto the plane. Brenda was standing 2 feet from the door.
Yeah.
She
I
saw
didn't
the
think I could
paramedics. She
play
saw the security team.
Siege. It
She
just
saw
seems
the
like a
lawyers
lot.
and the camera.
And it's just like
And
with
for the
any
first
game,
time in
if you don't
22
get on the
years,
game
she felt the ground
while the,
shift
you know,
beneath her.
everyone else
But
is
she didn't
playing
run.
and kinda
She
keep
didn't
up with things, you
apologize.
kinda get
She
left
didn't step
behind.
aside. She
And stuff. It
straightened her
takes a
back,
little
lifted
bit
her
to,
chin, and
like,
said,
catch up and
"Sir,
everything, and
I'm
people
going
are
to need you to
brutal.
identify yourself.
Especially
This is a
Siege,
restricted
people are
area during deplaning."
brutal.
Donovan stopped walking. He turned his head and looked at her. He didn't
With
say a
Overwatch, it
word.
goes all
He
right.
just looked at her with those eyes, and Brenda, for the
They're
first time
very,
that night, took a step back.
How would you say?
Then he
they-
walked past her down the aisle to
I
row
do find
2.
Some of them eat crayons.
Leo saw his father and everything he had been holding,
In audio.
every wall he had
Fair,
built,
fair.
every breath he had controlled. Every
Wait, you
tear he
mean
had
gamers
swallowed,
can
all of it
actually
collapsed
listen
at
to things?
once.
That's wild.
Dad. Donovan reached his sons. He saw Leo's wrists raw and bruised from the zip ties.
Shoot straight. Oh,
He saw
well, I'm
Lucas with
fucked.
the oxygen mask, his small body limp against the seat. He saw the backpack on the floor with the inhaler spilling out.
Okay.
He saw everything. He knelt down and wrapped both
Let's
arms
open
around
this
Leo,
game.
and Leo buried his face in his father's chest and cried. Not quietly, not politely.
Oh
The
my
full
God.
shaking, gasping cry of
Alright,
a
I didn't
child
wanna
who had
mute
been
myself
brave for
anyways,
too
that's so
long.
fine.
I've got you,
My
Donovan
bad.
whispered. I've got you.
Sorry.
It's over.
Thanks. Thanks.
The
Jake.
paramedics moved in around
Whoa.
Lucas. They checked his oxygen levels, started a nebulizer, put monitors
Blew out
on
my
his
brain
chest.
cells. Holy
One of
shit.
them looked at Donovan and said, "His
That was a
oxygen
little
saturation is at 84%. We need to transport him immediately." Donovan
if we
nodded.
finish the game
Do
early
it.
Tonight, we can play
They
some,
lifted Lucas onto the stretcher.
play
Lucas's
something else,
hand
I'm
reached
not
out
sure.
searching, and Leo grabbed it.
And 100%
"I'm right here, buddy.
misogyny?
I'm
What
not
the
going
fuck?
anywhere." They carried Lucas off the plane,
telling
and
me
Leo walked beside
that
the
girls
stretcher
can't
holding his
game?
brother's hand, and Donovan walked
What?
behind them both. As they
Diva.
passed
Thank
Brenda,
you.
Donovan
I don't wanna
stopped.
be possessed
He
by
didn't
a
raise his
venom.
voice. He didn't make a speech. He leaned close to her and said 5 words that Brenda Holloway would hear in her nightmares for the rest of her life.
Baby.
You're going to remember tonight. And then he was gone, and Brenda was standing alone in an empty first-class cabin, with the captain staring at her from the flight deck doorway, and the weight of what she had done was just beginning to land. The ambulance doors hadn't even closed before Donovan had his phone against his ear.
It's like with anything.
Leo was inside the ambulance holding Lucas's hand, and the paramedic was fitting a pediatric nebulizer mask over Lucas's face while reading numbers off a pulse oximeter that made her jaw tight. Donovan stood on the tarmac with one hand on the ambulance door and the other gripping his phone, and he watched his son's chest rise and fall in shallow, desperate rhythm while he waited for Gerald Whitmore to pick up. Gerald answered on the first ring. Donovan, I've got everything in motion. Gerald, my son's oxygen is at 82%. They're transporting him to the hospital right now. I need you to listen to me very carefully. I want Brenda Holloway arrested tonight. Not tomorrow. Not after an investigation. Tonight. Donovan, the police need probable cause and a formal complaint before they can. My 10-year-old son was zip-tied to an airplane seat while his brother suffered a life-threatening asthma attack and was denied medical care for 6 hours. That is assault on a minor. That is child endangerment. That is reckless endangerment resulting in bodily harm. And Gerald, my son, recorded it. He has video.
That's why we're here.
Silence on the line.
That's why we're here.
He has video. On his phone. I told him to record everything. Whatever happened in those last 90 minutes of that flight, it's on camera. Send me the video, right now. I'll have the DA's office on the phone within the hour.
I've played a little bit of Fortnite.
Donovan ended the call and climbed into the ambulance. He sat beside Leo and put his arm around his son's shoulders. Leo was staring at Lucas with an expression that was too old for his face. The expression of someone who had already done the math on what could go wrong and was bracing for the answer. He's going to be okay, Donovan said. Leo didn't look at him. You don't know that. Donovan opened his mouth to argue, but he stopped because Leo was right. He didn't know that, and his son had earned the right to hear the truth. You're right. I don't know that, but I know he's getting help now. And I know he's a fighter. And I know his brother kept him alive when nobody else would. Leo's lower lip trembled.
She was like, okay,
I tried, Dad. I tried everything.
Just didn't care.
I know you did. She took his inhaler. She took our water. She tied me up so I couldn't even touch him. I couldn't even hold his hand.
Apparently they wanted to bring voice
Donovan
chat to
pulled
DBG
Leo
and,
tighter
like,
against his side
so
and
you want
pressed
the
his
game
lips
to die
against
in
the
the
top of his
arm.
son's
No,
head.
It was leak.
His eyes were
It
burning,
wasn't DBD.
but
What
he
am I
would not
talking about?
cry.
I'm talking out of my ass.
Not here.
It was leak that they
Not
wanted to bring
now.
voice chat to, and I was like, oh my
There would
God.
be time
That's
for that
okay.
later.
That's okay. You're all good.
Right now, he needed to be the man
I
his
wanted to
sons
take
needed
me
him to
out.
be.
Do you have
The
insurance
ambulance
on
arrived
yourself?
at New York Presbyterian in 11 minutes. The emergency
Oh,
team was
Finley.
already waiting at
Please
the
don't
entrance
die.
because Marcus Cole had called ahead and
Don't
told them
die,
exactly
Finley,
who
don't
was
die.
coming and exactly what to
No.
expect.
I feel like you should.
They rushed Lucas through the doors and into a pediatric trauma bay, and within 90
What an
seconds,
injury.
he had an IV in his arm.
You can
A
do whatever you
continuous
want.
nebulizer running supplemental oxygen
Okay,
at full
Grace.
flow, and 2 doctors standing over him reading his vitals. 9:47
You
p.m.
guys ready for
Donovan stood
Grace?
outside the trauma bay with Leo
Hi,
pressed
Mr.
against his side
Zippy.
and watched through the glass as strangers fought to stabilize the son he hadn't been there to protect.
Okay,
The
Grace,
guilt
do we go
hit him like a
here?
physical
We put
blow.
the ball in, and
He
I
had
think
put
we
them
go
on
down
that plane. He had trusted the
here. With
airline.
insurance lottery.
He had trusted the system. He had
My
believed
lottery,
that
it's
2
broken.
first-class tickets and a VIP designation would be enough to keep his children safe, and he had been catastrophically,
the logo.
unforgivably
Thank
wrong.
you.
His phone
It's not even
buzzed.
kitty cats
A
food
text
time.
from Marcus Cole.
He has, like,
Brenda Holloway
40
still on the
minutes.
aircraft.
Here
NYPD,
for the
en
men,
route to the
I'm here
gate per
for
your
the
attorney's
men.
request. Captain Rowan has refused to
What's
let her
gonna
leave the
happen?
plane.
Friday the 13th.
Donovan
Oh,
read the
you're so
message
right.
twice.
Oh my God.
Good. Let her
Really
sit there.
thought it was Friday the 13th.
Dad,
That's
Leo said,
crazy.
I need to tell you
I'd like my
something.
tracking to work, please.
Donovan looked down at him.
Okay,
What
we got
is
some
it?
liquors down here.
There was a man. Seat 1C.
Liquor.
He saw what was
I
happening.
hardly know
He saw
him.
all of it. I asked him for help.
don't hear them.
I begged him, and he just sat there. What did he look like? Older guy,
Where are
silver
you, buddy?
hair, nice suit. He talked to Brenda for a
There they
second
are.
like he was going to do something, but then she told him she had it under
What are you
control,
about?
and he just went back
I'm
to his
about
steak.
come.
Donovan filed that
boys.
away. Every detail, every witness, every person who saw and did nothing. Anyone else?
Oh, it's just getting worse.
Everyone else. The whole cabin. They all saw. None of them did anything, except Sophie.
Hey guys.
Who's Sophie? The other flight attendant.
The
She was
recipe?
nice to us
The
at the
recipe for
beginning.
what?
She brought us water and
Your
cookies,
ass.
but Brenda pulled her away and told her she'd get fired if she helped us. Sophie came
We
back at
have
the end
acid
after the
now.
captain talked to Brenda.
we just got it.
She
We
gave
just got it
Lucas the
before.
oxygen. She cut the zip ties off my wrists. Donovan looked at his son's wrists. The raw, bruised rings where
We
the
just got it
plastic had
before,
bitten
so I
into
made-
his skin.
I went around
He
and
reached
got
down and
two.
gently held Leo's hands, turning them over, examining the marks. His fingers were trembling. Does it hurt? Not anymore. Leo, I need your phone. Leo handed it over. Donovan opened the video. It was shaky, filmed from an awkward angle. A child's desperate
Hey, man.
attempt to capture evidence while his hands were literally bound. But it was clear enough. The audio was clear enough. Brenda's voice was unmistakable.
Fuck, it's so
Donovan
loud.
watched 40 seconds of it and had to stop. He physically could not watch his son beg for help while a grown woman stood over him and did
Okay, we're
nothing.
about to have a bit more.
He
We
forwarded
just
the
need some
entire
more than
file
that.
to Gerald and put the phone in his pocket. 10:15 p.m.
I
The
really
doctor
do
came
like
out.
this blood mechanic.
A woman
It's
in her
so
40s with
good.
kind eyes and
They
a
did
steady
so
voice.
good. Oh
Mr.
my
Banks,
God.
your son's oxygen saturation has improved to 91%. We've got him on continuous albuterol, and we've
Get some
added
more
systemic
Why does it
corticosteroids to
always have
reduce
to be
the
the
airway
crutch,
inflammation.
man?
He's stable, but I want to be direct with you. Another 30 to 40
Alright, I'm
minutes
gonna back
without
away
intervention,
slowly, Mr.
and we would be
Licker.
having a very different conversation right now.
Yeah,
Donovan
yeah.
absorbed those words.
Okay, now we can make
30 to 40 minutes.
some more acid.
His son had been 30 to 40 minutes from death.
Pee-pee,
On an
them
airplane,
stabbing their
in first
pee-pee.
class, surrounded by adults.
And this is what I'll do to you.
Can I see him?
Disrespect me.
Of course. He's been asking
my
for his
acid.
brother. Leo was through the
my
door
acid,
before
not
the
your
doctor
acid.
finished her sentence. He climbed
Nice
onto the edge of
pee-pee.
Lucas's
Make
bed
sure
and
to
grabbed his
redeem your
hand.
pee-pees.
And Lucas, still
Enjoy
wearing the
your
oxygen
internet
mask,
chat.
still hooked to monitors and
Make sure
IVs,
to-
looked at his brother and said,
to
"You
do
look
your
terrible." Leo laughed. It was half a
Yeah, we
laugh
got
and
it.
half a sob, and it was the most beautiful sound Donovan had ever
Where's
heard.
pee-pee? Only
"You look
5%,
worse,"
dude.
Leo said. "Did Dad come?"
Damn, them some rookie
Dad's right here,
ones,
buddy.
family. Hi,
Donovan
Mr.
stepped
Tweedfoot.
forward and
How
knelt
are
beside
you?
the bed. He put his hand on Lucas's forehead, the way Diane always did,
Who's all
gentle
chicken
and
to your
warm,
dick?
and Lucas
That's
closed
what
his
extra
eyes
discipline.
and leaned into the touch. "Hey, champ," Donovan said. "Hey, Dad, sorry we caused trouble." Something inside Donovan fractured. His 10-year-old son lying in a hospital bed after nearly dying, apologizing for causing trouble. "You didn't cause anything. Do you hear me? None of this was your fault. Not 1 second of it. The lady said we didn't belong there. The lady was wrong. She said first class wasn't for kids like us." Donovan's voice
Shouldn't
went
he be
quiet.
dead?
The dangerous kind of quiet. "What exactly
there's
did she
two more
say,
lickers in
Lucas?" Lucas's eyes were heavy from the medication, but he fought to keep them
Gonna
open.
do me like that?
She said we
Oh.
didn't belong with the important people.
Okay, look, Grace, let's
She
go.
said she'd been doing this job longer than
I
we'd
wonder
been
if I could
alive,
do
and she
two
could
for
tell
one.
when someone didn't fit. She kept looking
I
at
do
us like we were
two?
dirty. Donovan
Lucas
stood up
called
slowly.
one
He kissed
bottle
Lucas on the forehead.
of
He kissed
acid.
Leo on the top of his head. Then he walked out of the room and into the hallway, and he stood there alone for
Aw.
exactly 10 seconds.
I'm so
And in those
glad.
10
I'm
seconds,
hoping
Donovan
everything's
Banks
going
made
good.
decisions that
Needs
would
to be
alter the
close,
course
yeah,
of Horizon
yeah.
Air,
Okay.
destroy Brenda Holloway's
like
career
thinking.
and
I like
freedom,
thinking.
and send a message to every airline in the world about
the
what
girl
happens
he's
when
doing
you
good
touch his
too.
children.
Oh, you got
10:38
3 with
p.m.
two? Oh my
He
God.
called Marcus Cole. "What's
Hi,
the status
Jen,
at the
how are
airport?"
you?
"NYPD arrived at the gate 20 minutes ago. Brenda Holloway is being
Okay,
detained on the
boys.
aircraft.
Now we
She's
test.
refusing to cooperate. She's telling the officers that the children were disruptive and that she followed standard protocol for unruly passengers. She zip-tied a 10-year-old to his seat. The officers have noted the zip ties. They're treating it as potential assault pending review of the evidence. Potential Marcus, send them the video." "Already done. Gerald forwarded it to the lead detective 15 minutes ago. And the other crew." Captain Rowan has given a preliminary statement supporting the children's
Yes.
account. He says he was contacted by the Horizon
Two
CEO
at once.
mid-flight and
go.
ordered to intervene, and when he
When
investigated,
find out
he
healing
found the
her problem
boys had been
pocket.
denied food, water,
Okay, so
and
we
medical
can
attention
do
for
it.
approximately 6 hours. He's furious.
Easy chat.
He says if he had known
Easy
earlier,
clap.
he would have diverted the flight. What about Sophie, the other flight attendant? She's given a voluntary statement. She's confirmed everything.
I wonder if I can
She
do
says
three.
Brenda threatened her job if she
Enjoy your
assisted the
camping
children,
and stuff.
and that
Aw.
Brenda told the rest of the crew the boys
No
were
school next day.
troublemakers who had
Yeah.
snuck into first
Of
class
course,
with
of
stolen
course.
tickets. Donovan went absolutely still. She told the crew they had stolen tickets. That's what Sophie stated, yes. My sons, whose boarding passes were purchased through my VIP account, with my credit card, with my name on the reservation. She told the crew they had stolen tickets. Marcus paused. Yes. And nobody checked. Apparently, Brenda's word carried significant weight with the junior crew. She's the most senior flight attendant on the transatlantic roster. The junior staff were afraid to challenge her. Donovan closed his eyes. One woman. One woman with authority and bias, and a crew too afraid to question her, and his sons nearly died. Marcus, I want every piece of security footage from that aircraft. I want the audio recordings from the cockpit. I want the passenger manifest and contact information for every single person who was sitting in first class tonight. Every one of them is a witness, and every one of them watched and did nothing. I'll have it by morning. Have it by midnight. 10:52 p.m. Gerald Whitmore called back. Donovan, the DA's office has reviewed the video. They're filing charges tonight. Assault on a minor, 2 counts. Child endangerment, 2 counts. Reckless endangerment in the first degree. And Donovan, the DA herself, watched that video.
Thanks, man.
She's adding a hate crime enhancement. On what basis? Sophie's statement.
I think you're pretty
She
great,
testified
too.
that Brenda told her, and I'm quoting from Sophie's written statement here. Those
There's not
boys
another
don't belong
one,
up
so
here,
we can
and we
mark them
both know
these.
why. I'm not serving them. The DA considers that sufficient evidence of racial motivation. Donovan's hand tightened around the phone. What does Brenda's lawyer say?
We can get
She doesn't have
snacks.
one yet. She's been read her rights at the gate, and she asked for union representation. But the airline's legal
there
team has
danger in
already
this next-
distanced themselves.
Another bag.
Richard Carmont
Let's
released a
go.
statement 30 minutes ago condemning the incident and
Some
stating
green
that
waste
Brenda
to dump.
Holloway
Let's
has been
go.
immediately terminated.
I'm doing good. Chilling
Terminated
and
isn't
vibing.
enough.
Some
I know.
contain zombies.
That's why
Fuck
we're
that.
pursuing criminal charges, civil litigation,
and
and a
vibing,
federal
baby.
civil rights complaint
We just yapped
simultaneously.
before and now
Donovan,
we're
by the time we're done,
hopefully finishing
Brenda Holloway
Resident
won't be
Evil
able to get a job at a
99,
bus
which would be
station.
very nice.
Gerald,
Should be
I don't
better
care
than
about her
us,
job.
but good.
I care about her freedom. I want her in handcuffs tonight. The officers are processing her
I don't like
now.
how that does
She'll be
that.
transported to
It's
central
nice.
booking within the hour, 11:04
Put the
p.m.
backs. I
Donovan walked
appreciate
back into Lucas's room.
My blankie.
Both boys were asleep.
It's a premium
Leo had
mega-
climbed fully onto the hospital bed
merch
beside his
blankie.
brother, and they were curled toward each
Give it
other,
back.
the way they had probably been curled toward
is
each other
pretty
in the
comfy.
womb, two
The
small
cats like it
bodies
too,
pressed
so-
together, hands intertwined, breathing in tandem. Lucas's oxygen levels were at 94%
Man,
and
pump your
climbing.
legs.
The monitors beeped steadily. The nebulizer hummed. Donovan sat in the
Give me your
chair
blood.
beside the bed and watched his son sleep.
From
He
your
thought about
peanuts.
Diane, lying in a hospital
giving
bed
me
in
peanut
London,
blood.
not knowing what had happened. He picked up his phone and
I
called
think
her.
there's danger inside
She
you.
answered immediately, her voice groggy but alert. Donovan? Did the boys land? Are they safe? He
Hello,
didn't want to
Danger.
tell her.
What's
She
up,
was in
Danger?
post-surgical recovery. She needed rest, not
man.
rage. But Diane Banks was not a
Strawberry
woman you
flavor?
kept things from, and she would never forgive him if he tried.
flavors are
They
melting on my
landed. They're at New York
tongue.
Presbyterian.
Peanut blood.
The hospital. Why are they at the hospital?
Hi,
He told her.
Smile.
He told her
How are
everything
you,
the same
Joe?
way Leo had told him, because the truth was the only thing that honored what his sons had endured.
Yum.
When he finished, the line was
Yum.
silent for so long
we
that
got more
Donovan thought the
snacks.
call had
Okay.
dropped. Diane,
Listen,
I'm here.
if they didn't
Her
want
voice
their
was
peanut
different
blood
now.
to be taken,
Not scared,
why is it
not
so
sad.
tasty?
Something else entirely. What's her name? Brenda Holloway. Is she in custody? She will be within the hour. Donovan, I want you to listen to me. I want you to take everything we have, and I want you to bury that woman.
Fuck you.
I want her to lose everything.
One of my favorite
Her
psychopaths
job,
in the back of
her
the head.
pension, her freedom.
Says good boy.
I want her to wake up every single morning for the rest of her life knowing what she did to our babies. That's already happening.
Mr. Tree Put.
And
Right.
the airline. The airline that hired her. The airline that let this happen.
Oh, this is
I'm
blood
handling
food.
it, Diane.
Oh my god.
Handle it harder.
Okay, we're
Donovan
gonna
almost
mix this
smiled.
You gonna have
Almost.
some more acid?
Get some
we're
rest.
gonna
The
take
boys
these.
are stable. Leo's sleeping right next to
Relaxing?
Lucas.
God,
They're
that's
safe.
me.
Send me a
That's literally
photo.
me this weekend. I
He
was
took a
like,
picture of the
absolutely
twins
not. We're
curled
vibing
together
this
on the
weekend.
hospital bed,
They're playing
their
some
faces
stream.
peaceful in sleep, the
We're
monitors
trying our
glowing
best,
green
doing our
behind them.
best.
He
I
sent
don't wanna
it.
do anything.
Diane didn't respond with words.
Oh, it does
She just
explode.
sent back a single
dick.
red heart, and Donovan knew
My
that
exploding
behind that
dick.
heart was a mother's fury that no ocean could contain.
Okay, we got the
11:31
combo
p.m.
for the safe.
Donovan's phone rang.
Let's
Marcus
go.
Cole. She's in handcuffs. Tell
can we
me,
go back there?
NYPD arrested Brenda Holloway at the gate at 11:17. She resisted
go back
verbally.
there?
She told the officers they were making a
Have you
mistake.
played this at all?
She told them the children were liars. She told them she had 22 years of service and a spotless record. She demanded to speak to her supervisor. When the officer read her the charges,
Reboot
she went
failure.
silent.
Reboot your mom.
Completely silent.
It's supposed to be
They walked her off the
American.
jetway in handcuffs past the entire ground
think-
crew. Did anyone film it? Three
and a
people
few
at
others
least.
have said that as
One of
well,
them
Smile.
appears to be a journalist.
They're like,
The arrest will likely be on the news by morning.
I'm not sure about this.
Donovan leaned back in the hospital
I'm not sure
chair.
about this.
Good. Let the world see. There's
There's
one
been
more
a few
thing.
comments
The
that's
man
like-
in 1C.
So Grace's
Leo's
boss is
description
really the
matched a
ED
passenger
villain
named
in this
Howard
game,
Kessler.
'cause
He's
he
a
sent her
managing
out to the
director at
field
Barrett
with no
Capital.
gun, and she
When
bought
the
this gun
police took
herself,
statements from the
and it's a
first-class
shitty-ass
passengers,
gun.
Kessler initially said he
So
hadn't
she's
noticed
just
anything
fucked.
unusual. The officer pressed him,
Resident
showed him a
Evil 6?
photo of Leo's
Yay!
wrists.
How's it going?
Kessler changed his story immediately.
Is Resident
He
Evil
admitted
6
he
or
saw
is
the
it
boy
5
ask
that
for
you
help
guys,
and he
like,
admitted he didn't intervene. Why not? He said, and I quote,
punch, like, a bunch of
"The flight attendant
old
seemed to have it under
race?"
control, and I didn't want to get involved." Donovan let that sentence sit in the silence. A managing
Sendo.
director at a billion-dollar
Thanks, man.
fund
Hi,
watched a
Sendo.
10-year-old
How are
boy
ya?
beg for help while his
You have
brother
given me
suffocated,
fish.
and he
Thank
didn't
you.
want to get involved. Marcus
Happy
add Howard Kessler to the witness
times.
list and cancel every contract Barrett Capital has with any company in our portfolio. That's 4 contracts worth approximately $60 million. Cancel them by Friday. 11:48 p.m. Leo stirred in the hospital bed. His eyes opened
both
slowly,
bold
and he
punching
looked
them
around the
both. Hi,
room with the
guys.
disoriented
How are you?
fear of someone who
Very
doesn't
iconic,
remember
that
where they
boulder.
are.
Listen,
Then he
I
saw
like
his
that
father,
boulder.
and the fear
I wanna
dissolved.
be that boulder.
"Dad, how long was I asleep?"
Hello.
"About an hour. How do you feel?" "Hungry." Donovan laughed. Quietly, so he wouldn't wake Lucas, but he laughed, and it was the first real laugh he'd had in 12 hours. "I'll get you something to eat." "Dad?" "Yeah." "Did they arrest her?"
Is there
Donovan
another one?
looked at his son, 10
We're
years old,
good.
asking if
Gonna
the woman who tortured him had been arrested the
I'll
way
take your
another
blood,
child might
baby.
ask if the dentist appointment was over.
Give me your
"Yes,
blood.
they arrested her." Leo
Is that
nodded
Bauer?
slowly. "Good."
To walk.
He paused.
Turn around,
What's
look
going
for
to
a
happen to
bottle.
her?
Yeah, I know
She's
the
going to
bottle's over
answer
there.
for what
I'm
she
gonna get
did.
to it.
Is she going to go to jail? If there's any justice in this world, yes. Leo was quiet for a long time. Then he said,
You gonna die?
"She really hated us, Dad. Not like she was annoyed or having a bad day. She hated us. I could see it in her eyes the second she looked at us. Before
just
we
gonna
said a
take a little
word,
time.
before we did anything. She looked
jumped
at us
past
and
it,
decided we
didn't
were nothing." Donovan reached over and took Leo's hand.
This side.
He held it
Oh.
gently, careful of the bruises on his
I should
wrist.
still be able to get it right.
Some people carry hate inside them like a disease. It has nothing to
man.
do with who you are, and everything to do with who they are. You are not nothing. You are my son. You are your mother's son, and you
I
are
do
the
like
bravest
this.
person
This
I
is
have
very
ever
cool.
met.
Grab it from this
I'm
side.
10, Dad.
Ah.
I know exactly how old you are.
Just
And I'm telling you what you did on that plane tonight. Grown men with
With a bowl
twice
of
your
acid.
courage couldn't have
Thanks,
done.
man. I'll take
You
your
saved
blood
your
cube.
brother's life. Leo looked down at Lucas, still
Thanks, man.
sleeping, still breathing the monitors,
Some of
still
these,
beeping their steady, beautiful rhythm. He would have done the
How
same for
can I
me.
say?
I
Getting
know
off
he
the
would.
blood is
The
very
clock on the
sus.
wall ticked past midnight. A new
Just
day.
a wee bit
The
sus. I'm
longest
like,
night of the Banks family's life was
I don't think
over.
we should be
But
here.
what was
Oh,
coming
there's a bottle
next
of
would shake an
acid.
entire
Oh my God.
industry. Because
one we
Donovan
prepared
Banks
earlier.
was not a man who suffered in silence, and the
Okay, the
video
liquors
on
aren't
Leo's
too
phone
bad
was about to become the
when you
most
have
watched
acid.
piece of evidence in aviation
that
history.
scary.
And 2 floors below them in the hospital
that
parking
scary.
garage, Gerald
Skinless
Whitmore
fuck.
was sitting in his car, reviewing the civil
the
complaint he
smell
would
of
file at
rotting.
9
Why is it
a.m.
opening up
A
its lid?
complaint that
Oh,
named
crap,
Brenda
it's big.
Holloway, Horizon Air, and 12 first-class passengers who watched 2 children suffer and chose
cheat.
comfort over conscience.
On a
The
Saturday
dollar amount at the
evening.
bottom of the complaint was $200 million. It wasn't about the money.
Hella
It was never
ass.
about the money.
My God,
It was
look at
about
his
making
back
sure that
penis.
what happened at 40,000 feet
Back
could never
penis,
happen
back penis,
again
back
to
penis.
anyone, anywhere, ever.
That is
And
a
Donovan
Lee
Banks had the
position.
power to make that promise stick. The video hit the internet at 6:47 a.m. Gerald Whitmore had not leaked it. Donovan
Okay, hold
had
up.
not authorized its release.
When
What
your girl
happened was
says it's
simpler
her
and
turn.
more devastating than any planned media strategy. One of the passengers in first class,
Oh my
a woman in
God.
seat 3A, who had watched the
Cat
entire
zombie.
7-hour ordeal without saying a word, had recorded 30 seconds of
Smells
Leo
like cat
being
too.
zip-tied to his seat on her own phone.
Nom nom nom. Eat
She
your
posted
meal.
it to her
Eat your-
social media
eat your-
page at 6:12
eat your
a.m.
snack.
with the caption, "Witnessed
What
this on my
mash?
flight last night. Can't stop thinking about it." By 6:47
Oregon.
a.m., 3 news outlets had picked it up. By 7:15 a.m.,
You
it
like
was
that?
everywhere. The 30-second clip
I
showed
see
Brenda's
what you
hands
said.
pulling the zip tie around Leo's wrist.
First time
It
in the
showed
street.
Leo's
Oh my
face,
God,
a
what the
10-year-old
fuck?
boy's face twisted in pain and fear. It showed Lucas
I'm a
slumped in the seat
dog.
beside him,
Nah.
motionless,
Yeah,
his lips
Jake
gray.
gets it.
And it captured Brenda's voice crystal clear, saying the words that
Probiotics
would
for that
define
man?
the
Oh my
rest of her
God,
life.
right.
Save the sermon.
I'll give him a
Donovan was
probiotic
standing in the
for
hospital cafeteria pouring coffee when Marcus Cole
I'm not
called
doing
him.
it.
Have you seen the news? I've been with my sons all night. I haven't looked at my
Hang on.
phone.
Ready?
Turn
This
on
is a
any
two
channel,
for you, cynics.
any one. It doesn't matter which. Donovan walked to the small television mounted in the corner of the waiting area. A nurse had it tuned to a morning news program. The anchor was mid-sentence, and the chyron at the bottom of the screen read, "Flight attendant arrested
Oh, we're not
after
gonna
alleged
die?
abuse of minor children on transatlantic flight." The 30-second video played. Then it played again. Then, a longer clip from Leo's phone footage appeared, the footage Donovan
Okay,
had
we're
sent
just
to Gerald.
dramatic.
And Donovan realized immediately that someone in the DA's office had leaked it. The longer clip showed
It's
3 full
so
minutes of Brenda
dramatic.
standing over the twins,
Oh
her
my
arms folded, her
God.
face hard as stone, while
Alright,
Leo
man.
begged for help,
Easy.
and Lucas wheezed
Yeah.
in the
Okay,
seat
now to
beside
take their
him.
blood
The
pee.
anchor's voice was shaking.
So
Not the
dramatic.
practiced
They're
concern
both
of a
so
news
dramatic.
professional, but genuine
Like,
shock.
"Whoa, acid in my
We want to warn
face."
viewers that this footage is deeply disturbing.
No.
What you are seeing is a senior flight attendant for Horizon Air allegedly
appreciate it.
denying medical
Mhm,
care
mhm.
to a 10-year-old child experiencing a severe asthma attack while physically restraining his twin brother.
Okay, I'm glad.
The children were
glad
traveling
we're-
unaccompanied in
So we
first
need to go
class.
get that,
We have confirmed that
I
both
know we
children
can go
have been
there.
hospitalized. Donovan's
first I
phone
wanna
started
go
ringing.
here.
It
I
didn't
wanna
stop.
open up this safe. We
7:32
got
a.m.
the- So it's 50
Gerald
to go
Whitmore arrived at the
right,
hospital
60
carrying a
and
leather
80.
briefcase and an
50,
expression
60,
that
80.
Donovan had
Ready?
only seen twice in 15 years, the expression Gerald wore
60.
when he knew he was about to win something historic. The DA's
Probably
office
did it.
filed formal charges at 7 a.m. 5 counts. 2 counts of assault on a minor. 2
What?
counts of child endangerment.
Hold up.
1 count of reckless
50 to the
endangerment in the
right,
first
60
degree
to the
with the hate
left.
crime enhancement.
80.
Brenda Holloway is being held at central booking. Her arraignment is scheduled for 2 p.m. today. Bail. The DA is requesting remand. No bail.
Ah!
Based on the severity of the charges and the flight risk.
Acid. Acid.
What's her lawyer saying?
Drugs.
She doesn't have a private attorney. She's been
Miracle?
assigned a public
Yeah.
defender, a man named David Carrillo.
Hi, Via.
He's
How are
competent
you?
but overwhelmed.
He got stabbed
I spoke to
once.
him briefly this morning.
wild.
He's trying to get the hate crime enhancement
Is
dropped.
there a save
On what
option?
grounds?
No.
He's arguing that Brenda's
You do know
behavior
your
was
right from
directed
your
at
left from
unaccompanied
right?
minors in
No.
general, not specifically at their
Right.
race. He says she would have treated any
mom's
unsupervised
left.
children the same way. Donovan set down his coffee cup very slowly. Sophie's statement says otherwise. It does.
I know how to English.
And we have 5 other crew members
I
who
know
have now come
numbers.
forward. 3 of them are junior flight
under the
attendants who worked
old
economy on the same flight.
orb.
They're saying that Brenda specifically
9
referred
times
to your
18
sons using language that makes the racial motivation undeniable.
9 times 18.
What
so
language?
180.
Gerald hesitated.
8.9
Donovan,
is
do you really want to hear this right now?
171.
Tell me. Gerald opened his briefcase and
Really
pulled
out
out
of
a printed
bed.
page. This is from the statement of Michelle Torres, a junior flight attendant who was working
Is this pictures
economy
of me?
class.
Thank you
She
for the
states
follow.
that approximately
I appreciate
90
it. Oh my
minutes
God,
into
it's
the
me.
flight, she entered the first class
Jessica.
galley to retrieve a serving
I'm in
cart.
here. Is there any snacks
Brenda
in
was
here?
speaking to another crew member
Hold up.
and said,
I need
I don't know who
snacks.
gave those 2 hood rats first-class
162?
tickets, but they're not getting a thing from me. They probably stole them. Michelle
'cause
says she was
18 times
shocked,
10 is
but didn't say
180.
anything because Brenda was her senior
you take
and had a
one away,
reputation for
so 1
retaliating
9
against
away.
crew who challenged her.
It's
Donovan didn't move.
171,
He
is it
didn't
not?
blink. He read the statement twice, then set it down on the table
So you
and
like
placed
Brent-
both hands flat
Okay,
on
quick
either
math.
side of it. File the civil suit today, not at
Park
9.
Ranger 31
Now.
years ago.
Donovan, we're still
162?
assembling the
What?
full...
No. Hang on. No, I can't be
File it
wrong.
now. Name
I'm
Brenda
good at
Holloway.
math.
Name Horizon Air. Name
I'm
Richard
good at
Carmont
math.
personally for
Not
failure
math,
to
but
ensure
math.
passenger safety.
Hang on. 18
And
times
Gerald
9.
add a 7th
100
count to
oh,
whatever
fucking
you can
bad
add it
math.
to. Because what happened on that plane wasn't just
What?
cruelty.
No.
It was a
How
policy
is
of
that?
hate
18
that an
times
entire
10
system allowed to
is
function for 22
180.
years.
Take away 9.
Gerald
is
nodded.
171.
I'll have it filed by 10 given 58 a.m. 7.
One lot of 18.
Donovan
I
walked
took
back to Lucas's
I
room.
took away the wrong
Both
one.
boys were awake. Lucas was sitting up in bed, still wearing the oxygen cannula, but his color was better. Pink instead of gray.
No one clip it.
His eyes were alert. Leo was sitting in the chair beside the bed,
snackies.
eating a
I
hospital
don't have
breakfast
any
tray that a
snacks.
nurse had brought him.
Fuck.
And for the first time since London, He looked like a 10-year-old boy
It's me.
instead of a war survivor. "Morning, Dad," Lucas said. His voice was raspy but strong. "Morning, champ. How are you feeling?" "Better. My chest still hurts a little, but I can breathe. The doctor says you're improving fast. You might be able to go home tomorrow." "Home, or hotel?"
The disc
Home.
from the beginning.
Our home." Lucas smiled. It was small and tired, but it was real. "Good. I miss my room." Leo looked up from his breakfast.
Oh my god.
"Dad, is it on the news?"
Low drop.
Donovan studied his son's face. Leo was asking not out of curiosity, but out of the specific need to know whether the world had seen what happened to them, whether anyone cared. "Yes, it's on the news." "What are people saying?" "People are angry, Leo. Very angry. On your behalf."
Took that from us.
"Are they angry at her?" "Yes."
Where do we take
Leo
it?
nodded
Oh, where do we
slowly.
put it?
He poked at his scrambled eggs. "Good." Lucas shifted in his bed. "Leo, what are you eating?" "Hospital eggs. They're terrible." "Can I have some?" "You want terrible eggs?"
Who is
"I
this
haven't
man?
eaten in like 12 hours. Leo scooped half his eggs onto a napkin and handed them to his brother, and the two of them sat there eating terrible hospital
true.
eggs together. And Donovan watched them
Lord
and felt
Spencer.
something in his chest that was larger than anger and deeper than relief.
Oh,
Pride.
this is the dude.
Absolute, overwhelming pride. 8:30 a.m. Richard Carmont called. Donovan let it ring 4 times before answering. "Donovan, I need to speak with you." "Then speak. I want to personally apologize for what happened to your sons. This is the worst incident in Horizon Air's history, and I take full responsibility."
Of the
"Full
T-virus
responsibility?
himself? Yeah.
What does that mean to you, Richard?" "I've terminated Brenda Holloway. I've launched an internal investigation into crew conduct on Flight 274. I've suspended
Because
3
you-
supervisors who were responsible for crew assignments and passenger
Grace.
welfare protocols.
We have a file?
And I'm implementing immediate reforms to how unaccompanied minors are handled
No,
on
not the
all
cliffhanger.
Horizon flights. That's a press
No.
release, Richard. That's not responsibility. What do you want? I want the truth. I want to know how a woman with 22
No, you
years of
kidding?
documented complaints,
The
because I know
cliffhanger?
there are complaints, Richard. My legal team has
Can
already
you
pulled the
balance
records, how a woman with a
crazy
history of
style?
discriminatory behavior was allowed to continue working in a position of
Leon's
authority
dying.
over passengers. I want to know who protected her. I want to know who ignored the reports, and I want those people fired today. Silence. Long, painful silence. "Donovan, some of those people are in senior management. I don't care if they're on the board. Fire them
Turn off the
today,
camera.
or I will hold a press
gonna
conference at
bounce-
noon,
no.
naming every
No, don't
single one of
bounce on
them.
it.
And by
Don't
tomorrow
bounce on
morning,
Lord
your
Spencer,
stock will be in
Lady
free fall.
Ashcroft.
You know I'm
Don't
not
do it.
bluffing.
Here
I
you
know
go.
you're not. Then make it happen. You have until
Leon's
11
having a rough
a.m.
moment.
Donovan hung up. He looked at his phone and saw 17 missed
He's
calls,
not the
43
D-virus.
text messages, and
Not
over
bad.
200 emails. Among the texts
Snort.
was one from a number he didn't recognize. He opened it. "Mr. Banks,
was Alicia's
my name is
special
Sophie
account?
Renard. I was the flight attendant who helped your sons at the end of the flight. I know you probably
Okay,
don't want to hear
boys.
from anyone associated with that plane right now, but I need you to know that I am so sorry. I should have done more. I should have stood up to her
Ooh.
sooner.
Uh-oh,
I was
we're gonna have to
afraid
deal
for
with
my
big
job,
ones, aren't we?
and I let that fear keep me from protecting your children. I will
Okay.
regret that for the rest of my life.
Special in 6.
I hope Leo and Lucas are recovering. They are the bravest boys
We're
I
gonna
have
have to
ever
deal
met."
with the lickers.
Donovan read the message 3 times. Then he
No,
typed
I don't
back,
wanna.
"Sophie,
I
you
just do a
came
part for
back.
them, though.
When it
Hang on,
mattered
let
most,
me
you
get a
came
really good
back.
light for you
My
first.
son told me what
Hold
you
up.
did.
I got you
You
a
gave
little bit.
Lucas oxygen. You cut the ties off Leo's hands.
Hang on,
You stayed
let's
with
sit
them when
together.
Brenda ordered you to
Where's
leave.
that?
Don't carry guilt for the courage you found. Carry pride for the choice you made. If you ever need anything, you call this number." He sent it and put the phone away. 9:15 a.m. The news cycle had exploded. Every major network was running the story. The video
like I'm
had
sitting
been
on his
viewed
lap.
over 12 million
Hold up.
times. The hashtag Justice for Leo and Lucas was trending in 4 countries. Reporters were
Warren.
camped outside the hospital, outside JFK, outside Horizon Air's corporate headquarters, and outside the Manhattan courthouse, where Brenda Holloway's arraignment was scheduled for that afternoon. Donovan did not make a public statement. He didn't need to.
We're both
The video
gremlins
spoke for
together.
itself. But other people were talking. Passengers from Flight 274 were being tracked down by reporters, and one by one they were giving
That
interviews
groin.
that
My
ranged from
groin.
tearful to defensive to outright damning. The woman in 3A, the one who had posted the original 30-second video, went on a morning show and broke down crying. I saw it
guys had
happening.
weapons?
I
That's
saw that
crazy.
woman treat those boys like animals.
head nerd.
And I sat there. I sat in my seat and I watched.
Okay.
And I told myself it wasn't my place to interfere. And now I have to
Let's
live
go,
with that.
boys.
Those boys were 10 years old. 10 years old. And a cabin full of
Oh.
adults did nothing. Howard Kessler, the man in
Is reaching
1C,
his limits.
the silver-haired
Sunbouncing
managing
coffee
director
loaded
from
with
Barrett
default
Capital,
so he can
who
only
Leo had personally
wait for this
begged
to
for help,
subside.
tried to avoid the cameras. He released a statement
the
through his
fuck?
firm that read, "I deeply regret
Leon,
not taking more
it's okay,
decisive
Leon.
action during the flight.
Papa,
My thoughts are with the Banks family."
Gotta be kidding me.
Gerald's
got this,
team had
Leon.
already
You gotta
named
live.
him as a material witness in the civil suit.
You're gonna live.
10:02 a.m. Gerald called
Everything's
again.
So fine.
The
No
civil
parrying.
complaint is filed.
Oh.
$200 million. Named defendants are Brenda Holloway Horizon, Air Incorporated,
have to parry.
Richard
We have
Carmont
to-
in his capacity as CEO,
We can't just
and 4
die.
supervisors identified in the internal
if they
records
kill Leon,
as having received
fuck
and
you,
dismissed
man, fuck
prior
you.
complaints about Holloway's conduct.
They can't
How
do
many
this to us
prior
Pinkies.
complaints? Donovan,
They
you need to
literally
sit down for
can't.
this. How
They
many?
can't.
How?
No.
17. Over 12 years. 9 of them specifically referenced
microdose
discriminatory
kicks in.
language
Oh my
or
God.
behavior
Microdosing.
toward passengers of color.
He got infected.
3
Yeah.
referenced physical
He doesn't learn
intimidation
his
of
lesson,
passengers,
does he, JL?
including one incident in 2019,
My
where she
bookie.
reportedly grabbed a teenager's boarding
broken.
pass out of his hand and tore it up because she
His TV
believed
is
he was
gone
in the
same
wrong
way as Arthur
section.
Morgan. My
That
TV.
complaint was filed by the
No.
teenager's mother. It was reviewed by
Upgrade your
HR,
guns.
and the
I'll
finding
upgrade
was,
your
quote,
mom.
insufficient evidence to support disciplinary action. Brenda received a verbal coaching. Donovan felt the blood drain from his
How do I
face.
compare them, though?
17 complaints, 12 years.
Oh, compare.
And she was still flying first class on
yes.
transatlantic
The one that
routes.
says R.
She was their most senior transatlantic crew member.
Damn, that's crazy. I was
The
gonna play
airline
Red Dead
protected her
Redemption
because
now
she was
as
a known
well.
quantity.
Thanks,
Passengers in her
Smile.
cabin
Thanks,
regularly gave
Obama.
high satisfaction ratings.
So it's got
The
better.
wealthy white passengers, that is.
Better.
The complaints came exclusively from passengers of color
just a better
and from
guy.
junior crew members who felt they couldn't speak up. A system built to protect the abuser.
Okay.
Exactly. And that's exactly what the civil suit argues. This wasn't one rogue employee.
Are you
This was
better?
institutional negligence. The airline knew. They had the documentation, and they chose her comfort over their passengers' safety. Donovan walked to the window of the hospital room.
Hi,
Leo and
Sarah.
Lucas were
How are
playing a
you?
card game on the bed.
Oh,
The kind of
very
silly made-up
better.
card
How
game
are-
that only twins know the rules
Our own
to.
one is better.
They were arguing about whether a 7 beats a king, and Leo was insisting it did because he had declared it earlier,
Hi, Ultima.
and Lucas
Hi,
was calling him a
Pumpkin.
cheater, and they were both
I
laughing.
did. Would you guys
laughing.
like me to play Red Dead?
Less than 12 hours
taking
after
it
the
down.
worst
I'm
night of their
taking it
lives,
down.
they were laughing. Children are stronger than the world deserves.
It looks
11
like my
a.m.
owned one is better.
Donovan called Richard Carmont. It's
Keep
11
my
a.m.,
guns,
Richard.
you better.
It's
Thank you.
done. 4 supervisors
Upgrade-
terminated
upgrade
as
your
of 30
mom!
minutes ago. The head of HR for crew operations has been placed on immediate leave pending
Okay, how do
investigation.
we- Oh, this one.
And Donovan, there's something else.
Ah.
During the internal review this morning, we discovered that Brenda Holloway had a personal file on her work computer. It contained a list of passenger names, dates, and seat assignments.
Wait,
All
we
of them
haven't
were
upgraded
passengers
this
of
one?
color who had been seated in first or business class. She had notes next to each name, comments about their appearance,
Is
their
10 out of
behavior,
10?
whether she considered them her word
Oh, yeah,
appropriate
we
for the
did a lot of
cabin.
scope with that one. The Requiem. Upgrade.
Donovan closed his
Upgrades,
eyes.
people,
She kept a
upgrades.
list.
You're doing
She
good.
kept a
I'm
list.
glad that you're doing good. Oh, we
Forward
can
that
upgrade
file
this.
to
What the
Gerald
fuck?
Whitmore and to the DA's office immediately. It's already been sent.
We can
Richard, when this is over,
enhance?
and it will be over, I am going to acquire a controlling interest in
Since
Horizon Air.
when?
Not because I want your airline, because I want to make sure that what happened to my sons
Play
is
Red
the
Dead.
last time it ever happens on
Yeah,
one
I
of your
think I've got
planes.
them.
You can either
Okay.
work with me on
There's
that,
a few
or you can
games I
work
wanna play.
against
I'm
me.
really my
But I
story
promise you the
story
outcome will be
game
the
arc,
same.
You know what I mean? Since
Richard
forever now-
Carmont was quiet for a long time.
Actually?
Then he said, I'll work with you,
idiot.
12:15 p.m. Diane Banks called
That's why
from
you can't
London.
take me anywhere.
Her voice was stronger today, fiercer.
Did I upgrade
She had
my
been
armor?
watching the news from her hospital bed.
the
Donovan,
whole time.
I just saw the video. Diane,
Time.
don't tell me to stay calm.
touch.
Don't tell me to rest. I just watched a woman physically assault our son on a screen
My
6
balls.
inches from my face.
Messed
I watched her stand over Lucas while he couldn't breathe.
Didn't tune up
I
any
watched
guns
Leo
until
beg
now.
for
That's
help and get
crazy.
zip-tied for it.
I have.
I am getting on a
I've
plane
added the
today.
extra enhancement
You had surgery
bullshit,
2 days
but I
ago.
didn't know that you could enhance.
I don't care. The doctor hasn't cleared you to fly. I don't care. Diane, the boys are safe. They're in the hospital, they're improving, and I am handling this. I know you're handling it.
You boys
But those are
obviously
my
gonna come
babies,
out of your
Donovan.
holes.
I put them on that plane. I was the last one to see them before they boarded. I held Leo's face in my hands and told him to take care of his brother, and he did, and the world punished him for it. I need to hold them. I need to see their faces. I need to be there. Donovan knew there was no argument that would win. I'll send the jet. It'll be at Heathrow by 4 p.m. London time. But Diane, you're bringing a nurse with you. Non-negotiable. Fine. And you're resting on the flight. Don't push it. 1:30 p.m.
It's a good story.
Donovan stood in the hallway outside Lucas's room and took a call from his communications director, a woman named Patricia Voss, who had been fielding media requests since 6 a.m. Donovan, I have over 300 media requests for a statement. Every major outlet in the country. BBC, Sky News, and several European networks as well. The story has gone international.
Thank you for the follow.
International. The video has been viewed over 50 million times. It's the #1 trending topic globally. Several airlines have already issued preemptive statements about their own child safety policies. 3 members of Congress have called for a federal hearing on airline treatment of unaccompanied minors. And Donovan, the NAACP, the Urban League, and 4 other civil rights organizations have released statements supporting your family and calling for federal investigation into discriminatory practices at Horizon Air. Donovan absorbed this. What had happened to his sons was no longer a personal tragedy. It had become a national conversation, a global one. I'll make a statement tonight, after the arraignment. Have it ready for 7 p.m., outside the courthouse. What do you want to say? The truth, all of it. 2 p.m. Brenda Holloway's arraignment began in a Manhattan courtroom packed with media. She was brought in wearing the same uniform she had been arrested in, minus the apron and the badge. Her hands were cuffed in front of her. Her face was pale.
What do you mean, Red?
She walked to the defendant's table and sat down beside David Carrillo, her public defender, and she did not look at the gallery. The judge read the charges. 2 counts of assault on a minor, 2 counts of child endangerment, 1 count of reckless endangerment in the first degree with a hate crime enhancement. David Carrillo entered a plea of not guilty on all counts and requested bail. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the people request remand. The defendant physically restrained a 10-year-old child using unauthorized restraints while knowingly denying life-saving medical care to his twin brother for a period of approximately 6 hours. The victim, Lucas Banks, was hospitalized upon landing with an oxygen saturation of 82%, which medical experts will testify placed him within minutes of respiratory failure. Additionally, evidence recovered from the defendant's work computer reveals a pattern of documented racial profiling of passengers over a 12-year period. The people consider the defendant a flight risk, given her access to international travel, and a danger to the community, given the severity and deliberateness of her conduct. David Carrillo responded, Your Honor, my client has no prior criminal record. She has been employed by Horizon Air for 22 years with no criminal complaints. She has deep roots in the community. We request reasonable bail. The judge looked at both attorneys. Then she looked at Brenda. The evidence presented, including video footage that this court has reviewed in chambers, depicts conduct that is deeply troubling. Bail is set at $500,000. The defendant will surrender her passport and is prohibited from contact with any minor child. She is placed on electronic monitoring effective immediately. Brenda's face didn't change. She stared straight ahead with the same rigid composure she had carried on the plane. The composure of a woman who still believed she was right. David Carrillo leaned over and whispered to her. She shook her head once sharply, like she was refusing something. He whispered again. She shook her head again. The officers let her out. She didn't look back. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed.
Wow.
David Carrillo stopped briefly and said only, My client maintains her innocence. She followed standard airline protocol for managing disruptive passengers. We look forward to presenting the full facts at trial. A reporter shouted, Disruptive! They were 10 years old. Carrillo walked away without answering. 3:45 p.m. Back at the hospital, Leo was standing at the window of Lucas's room, looking out at the parking lot below. He could see the news vans. He could see the reporters with their cameras.
That's what makes
Dad, are all those people here because of us? Yes.
Am I right,
Why do they care? Donovan pulled a chair beside his son and sat down. Because what happened to you matters, Leo. It matters to a lot of people, not just our family. People all over the country are watching this story because they know it could have been their children. their brothers, their sons.
Tongue ferocity intensified.
But it wasn't their
Yes,
children.
sir.
It was us. And that's exactly why they care. Because when something wrong happens to one family
Man, that sucks,
and
you
nobody
fucking
speaks
nerd.
up, it can happen to every family.
No comment.
You and Lucas, what you went through, it's making people think about how children are treated, how people of color are
Daddy
treated,
mode.
how power is used and misused by people who have it. Leo was
Oh, it's okay,
quiet.
Leon.
Then he
You're doing
said,
great, Speedy.
"The lady on the plane,
Doing great.
Brenda, she wasn't
Damn,
just
that's
mean.
crazy.
She
Smile
enjoyed
really
it.
out
I
here.
could see it. When she took our
Fucking
water when she told us we didn't
nothing
belong,
via.
there was this look on her
What'd you
face,
do, Via?
like
Just
she was
this?
pleased with herself. Like putting us in our place made her feel important." Donovan felt his jaw tighten. Some people build themselves up by tearing others down.
You got this, Papa.
It's the weakest thing a person can do, and it's the most dangerous, because when that person
You're
has
hitting
authority
buttons,
over
you're
someone who
hitting all
can't
the
fight back
buttons.
cruelty, becomes
He's a
policy.
menace, chat.
Is
Take
that
him
what
out.
happened?
Take him out.
It became policy. For 22
Yes,
years,
Andy.
Leo. She did this for 22 years. You and Lucas weren't the first. Leo turned from the window and looked at his father with eyes that were clear and sharp
Smile
and
really
burning
out
with
here,
something
being
that wasn't
jealous of
anger and
peanuts.
wasn't sadness. It was
Smile is
resolve.
the peanut.
Then we need to make sure we're the
Peanut.
last. Donovan looked
He's
at
gonna
his
take
son,
everyone's
and in that
peanuts.
moment he saw something he had never seen before.
Don't
Not the
delete my
child he had
peanut,
dropped off
mister.
at school yesterday or read bedtime stories to last week. He
How
saw
was
the
I
man Leo
supposed
was going to
to-
become. And that man was extraordinary. We will be, Donovan
You
said.
bitch.
I promise you that.
Wait a fuck
Leo
is
nodded,
that?
once turned back to the window, and watched the news vans multiply in the parking lot below, each one carrying the story of two boys who refused to be silenced, and a father who refused to
You
let
and
the
my friends
world
are
look
pouch-
away.
I know,
Donovan stood
right?
outside the
Can't take
Manhattan
them
courthouse
anywhere.
at exactly 7 p.m., 17 hours after his sons had landed
hear
at
you,
JFK
Mr.
in the worst
Mr.
condition
Mika.
of their young lives. The media had set up a wall of cameras so dense that the flashes looked like lightning. Behind him stood Gerald Whitmore, Marcus Cole, and Patricia
Where's your
Voss.
friend?
In front of him stood the entire world. He didn't use notes. He didn't read from a script. He looked directly into the cameras and spoke the way he spoke in
Leon!
boardrooms and living rooms, and anywhere truth needed to be delivered without decoration.
Kill him, kill him,
Last
kill him.
night, my two
Yeah!
sons, Leo and Lucas Banks, 10 years old, boarded
Molly's down,
Horizon
get him
Air
Molly's down,
Flight
get him Molly's down.
274 in London. They were traveling alone because their mother was in emergency surgery. They had first-class tickets purchased through my personal account.
Thanks, man.
They were VIP
the
passengers
peanut.
with every document, every authorization, and every right to be on that aircraft.
Riding the peanut.
He paused, not for effect,
I was
because he
playing
needed
Resident
the
Evil
breath.
6 the other night
For
when he was
7
being
hours,
so
a senior
unserious
flight
with
attendant
Leon.
named Brenda Holloway
Wait, which
denied my
Resident Evil
children
6
food
did
and
he play
water.
as? Did he play
She
as
confiscated
Leon?
their personal
Like
water
someone
bottle.
else?
She took my son's asthma inhaler
What
out
about
of his hands during a
24
medical
hours left?
emergency.
Let's go.
She physically
Hi,
restrained my 10-year-old son with zip ties. She refused to provide medical attention to my other son, whose oxygen saturation dropped to 82%, a level that medical experts have confirmed placed him within minutes of respiratory failure and death. Another pause. The cameras
Some
clicked in
MILF-looking
word.
lady?
She did
Like
this
Crazy
because of the
Dave's
color of their
boyfriend.
skin. Evidence recovered from her work computer confirms a 12-year pattern of racial
And Helena.
profiling against
Helena.
passengers of
Oh my
color in
God.
first-class
We
cabins.
cut off his tongue.
17 formal complaints were filed against her over that period.
Peanut.
Every single one was dismissed by Horizon Air Management. Every single
Oh
one.
my God. It's
Donovan's
ripped for
voice
your
dropped
pleasure.
lower, not softer, heavier. My son survived last night because Leo, my 10-year-old son, had the presence of mind and the courage to record what was happening and send me a message begging for help. A 10-year-old boy saved his brother's life because an entire cabin of adults and an entire airline system failed them.
Someone could take all
I am
that
not
Michelle.
here tonight to ask for sympathy.
fuckers would.
I am here to deliver a promise. What happened to Leo and Lucas will never happen to another child on any airline anywhere
Richie.
ever
How are
again.
ya?
I will spend every resource I have to make certain of that. That is not a threat. That is a fact.
I want to talk to you about
He
your,
turned and walked away.
car's extended warranty.
He didn't take questions. There were no questions worth answering.
Hey,
The
Smile, I
statement
found
aired
your old
live on
account.
11 networks. Within 1 hour, it had been viewed 90 million
Everyone
times.
clappy.
By midnight, it would pass 200 million.
Clappies for the
8:15
boy
p.m.
Smile.
Donovan walked into
Clappies for
Lucas's
Smile.
hospital room and found something he
Yeah, I
hadn't
can say things are
expected.
better if I say. "Rawr."
Diane was there. She was
She's a
sitting on the edge of
crybaby.
Lucas's
Hey,
bed
she
with
will
both
too.
boys in her arms,
I'd be a
and all
crybaby
3 of
too,
them were
then.
crying. The nurse
It's not rough
Donovan
out
had
here.
insisted on was standing in the
Summon
corner,
King
looking
Asher for
exhausted and
any attack
emotional.
mode. And then I end my turn.
Diane looked up at him. Her face was swollen from tears and still pale from surgery, but her eyes were blazing.
That's what I need.
The jet landed an hour ago. I couldn't wait.
Let me message.
The doctor cleared you.
Let me add
The
something
doctor
to
tried
my
to stop
toggles.
me.
I want
My
a
nurse
clappy
convinced him
emoji.
that stopping me would cause more damage than letting me go. Donovan looked at the nurse. The nurse shrugged and said, "She's not wrong." He crossed the room and wrapped his arms around all three of them. For 60 seconds, the Banks family held each other in a hospital room in New York and didn't say a word because there were no words large enough for what they had survived. Lucas pulled back first. "Mom, you smell like a hospital." Diane laughed through her tears. "So do you, baby." "I'm not a baby. You're my baby. You're always going to be my baby, even when you're 40. Leo was pressed against his mother's side, his face buried in her shoulder. He hadn't said anything since she arrived. He was just holding on. Diane stroked his head and whispered, "You did so good, Leo. You did so good." I was scared the whole time. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing, even when you're terrified. And you did, baby. You saved your brother. Leo's shoulders shook, and he cried the way only a child who has finally been given permission to fall apart can cry. He cried for 7 hours of fear. He cried for the water that was taken away, and the inhaler that was ripped from his hands, and the zip ties that cut into his skin. He cried for the man in 1C who looked away, and the cabin full of adults who chose silence. He cried until there was nothing left, and then he looked up at his mother with red eyes and said, "Can we go home?" "Tomorrow, baby. Tomorrow. 9 p.m. Gerald Whitmore called with an update that changed the trajectory of the case. Donovan, the DA's office, received additional evidence this evening. 3 former Horizon Air passengers have come forward independently, each with their own documented experiences of racial discrimination by Brenda Holloway. One of them is a federal judge. He was flying business class on a domestic flight in 2021. He's black. He says Brenda questioned his ticket, demanded additional identification beyond his boarding pass, and told the passenger beside him that she would sort out the seating mix-up. There was no mix-up. He filed a complaint with the airline. It was dismissed. A federal judge. A federal judge. He's agreed to testify. Gerald, this is bigger than one flight attendant. I know. That's what I called to tell you. The DA is expanding the investigation. They're looking at Horizon Air as an institution, not just Brenda. The pattern of dismissed complaints, the HR failures, the management structure that enabled it. This has the potential to become a landmark civil rights case. Donovan sat down slowly. He had started this fight to protect his sons. It was becoming something larger. Something that would reach far beyond his family and touch every person who had ever been told they didn't belong somewhere because of what they looked like. What do you need from me? Your continued cooperation, your son's testimony when they're ready, and Donovan, your patience. This is going to take time. I have time, and I have resources. Whatever this case needs, it gets. 10:30 p.m. Lucas was released from the hospital the following morning with a clean bill of respiratory health, strict follow-up instructions, and a small army of specialists who would monitor him for the next 6 months. The family returned to their home in Manhattan, and for 48 hours, Donovan kept the world out. No calls, no media, no lawyers, just his family together healing. But the world didn't stop. Horizon Air's stock dropped 23% in 2 days. 3 board members resigned. The head of operations and 2 vice presidents of customer experience were terminated. Richard Carmont held a press conference in which he announced a complete overhaul of the airline's crew training complaint review processes and unaccompanied minor protocols. He called it the most significant reform in the company's history. The media called it damage control. 1 week after the flight, Donovan Banks acquired a 14% stake in Horizon Air, making him the single largest individual shareholder. He did not do this quietly. He announced it in a letter to the board that was simultaneously released to the press. The letter read in part, "I am not acquiring this stake to punish Horizon Air. I am acquiring it to reform it. The systems that allowed Brenda Holloway to operate with impunity for 22 years were not an accident. They were a culture. Cultures do not change through press releases. They change through power accountability and the relentless insistence that every human being who boards an aircraft is treated with dignity. I intend to provide all 3. Within 1 month, Donovan had a seat on the board. Within 3 months, he had installed a new chief diversity officer. a new head of crew operations, and a passenger advocacy division that reported directly to the board. Every complaint filed by a passenger or crew member would now be reviewed by an independent panel within 72 hours. No exceptions. No dismissals without documented justification. No more Brendas. The trial began 4 months after the flight. Brenda Holloway entered the courtroom on a Monday morning looking like a different woman. The confidence was gone. The rigid posture was gone. Her hair was thinner. Her face was drawn. The 22 years of unchecked authority that had defined her identity had been stripped away in a matter of weeks, and what was left was a woman who still could not understand what she had done wrong. Her defense was consistent from the first day to the last. She had followed protocol. The children were disruptive. She had managed the situation the way she had been trained to manage it. She had not targeted them because of their race. She would have treated any unaccompanied minors the same way. David Carrillo, her public defender, built the entire defense around this argument. He brought in airline training manuals. He cited protocols for managing disruptive passengers. He argued that zip ties were standard equipment carried by all Horizon crew for safety purposes. The prosecution destroyed it. They played Leo's video in its entirety. 14 minutes of footage that showed a 10-year-old boy begging for water, begging for help, begging for someone to save his brother while Brenda stood over him with folded arms and a face made of stone. The jury watched in absolute silence. 2 jurors were crying by minute 6. They brought Sophie Renard to the stand. Sophie, who had left Horizon Air 2 weeks after the incident, described in detail how Brenda had ordered her to stay away from the twins, how Brenda had threatened her career, and how Brenda had told her the boys had stolen their tickets. "Did you believe the boys had stolen their tickets?" the prosecutor asked. "No," Sophie said. "Of course not. They had legitimate boarding passes. They were in the system. Anyone could have checked." "Did Brenda check?" "She did check. I saw her look at the manifest. She knew they were legitimate passengers. So why did she tell you they had stolen tickets?" Sophie paused. Her eyes were wet. "Because she needed a reason. She needed the rest of us to believe they didn't belong there so we wouldn't question how she was treating them." The prosecution called Dr. Amanda Foster, the emergency physician who had treated Lucas at New York Presbyterian. Dr. Foster testified that Lucas arrived with an oxygen saturation of 82% severe bronchospasm and early signs of respiratory acidosis. She stated clearly and without equivocation that if Lucas had gone another 30 to 40 minutes without medical intervention, the outcome would very likely have been fatal. "In your professional opinion," the prosecutor asked, "was the delay in medical care a contributing factor to the severity of Lucas's condition?" "It was the primary factor," Dr. Foster said. "This child had asthma medication with him on the plane. His brother attempted to administer it. The defendant confiscated the medication and physically prevented the brother from providing care. If the inhaler had been administered when the symptoms first appeared, this child would almost certainly not have required hospitalization." Carrillo cross-examined aggressively. "Dr. Foster, is it possible that the child's asthma attack was triggered by anxiety rather than the cabin environment?" "Anxiety can exacerbate asthma, yes. But the primary trigger was the dry pressurized cabin air combined with prolonged dehydration. The child was denied water for approximately 6 hours on a transatlantic flight. That alone would compromise respiratory function in a healthy child. In a child with severe asthma, it was reckless to the point of being life-threatening. But the defendant is not a medical professional. She had no way of knowing. The brother told her. Multiple times. He told her his brother had asthma. He told her the inhaler was needed. He begged for water. He explained the medical situation clearly and repeatedly. The defendant chose to disregard that information. That is not ignorance. That is indifference. The courtroom was silent. Leo took the stand on a Wednesday afternoon. He was 10 years old, and he sat in the witness chair with his back straight and his hands folded in his lap, and he answered every question with a clarity and composure that made the prosecutor's job almost unnecessary. He described the flight from beginning to end. He described Brenda's first words to them. He described the water being taken away, the cookies removed, Sophie being pulled away, the call button being ignored, the zip ties. Every detail delivered in the steady voice of a child who had relived this night 1,000 times and refused to look away from any of it. "Leo," the prosecutor said gently, "when you grabbed Brenda's arm, why did you do that?" "Because my brother was dying, and she was walking away." "Were you trying to hurt her?" "No, sir. I was trying to get her to turn around and look at him." I just wanted her to look at him.
Go, Leon,
And what
go.
did she do?
Go, go.
She pulled out a zip tie and said if I touched her again, she'd restrain me and hand me over to the police. And then what happened? She tied my hands to the armrest. Both hands. I couldn't move. I couldn't reach Lucas. I couldn't hold his hand or give him his inhaler. I could only sit there and watch him get
Grace,
worse.
stop fucking around.
Leo,
Fuck.
during those hours on the plane, did any
Click
other
the button.
passenger try to help you? One man, seat 1C.
Click the fucking
I
button.
walked up to him and asked him to help us get water.
Thank
He
God.
said the flight attendant was probably just busy.
Okay, boys, ready?
Then Brenda came over and told him she had it under control, and he stopped talking to me.
Everyone get
Did anyone
popcorn.
else?
Popcorn,
Leo
popcorn.
shook his head slowly. No, sir. Nobody else. The silence in the courtroom was deafening.
She was.
Brenda Holloway did not take the stand. Carrillo
piss.
advised against it, and for once
Piss.
she listened to her lawyer. But it didn't matter. The evidence was overwhelming. The video, the testimony, Sophie's account, the doctor's analysis, the 17 prior complaints, the list on Brenda's computer, the federal judge's testimony about his own experience. The jury deliberated for 3 hours and 47 minutes. Guilty on all 5 counts. Brenda Holloway showed no reaction when the verdict was read. She sat perfectly still, staring straight ahead, her hands flat on the table. Carrillo leaned toward her and whispered something, and she shook her head the same way she had shaken it at the arraignment. One sharp motion, a refusal to accept. Sentencing came 6 weeks later. The judge, a woman named Honorable Patricia Chen, addressed Brenda directly before delivering the sentence. Ms. Holloway, this court has carefully considered the evidence presented during your trial. The testimony of witnesses, the medical records of Lucas Banks, the video evidence recorded by Leo Banks, and the extensive documentation of your prior conduct. What this court finds most disturbing is not the individual acts of cruelty you committed on Flight 274, though those acts were severe and
She's
life-threatening.
normal.
What disturbs this court most is the pattern. For 22
There's
years,
nothing
you
special
operated
about
in a
Grace at
position of
all.
authority with a documented history of discriminatory conduct, and every institution that should have stopped you chose instead to protect you. That systemic failure does not absolve you. It compounds your guilt because you were empowered by that failure, and you used that power to harm the most vulnerable passengers in your care. She paused and looked
She's
at Brenda.
baby.
The court sentences you to 12 years in state prison with eligibility for parole after 8 years. You are permanently prohibited from employment in any transportation or childcare capacity. You will pay restitution in an amount to be determined in coordination with the civil proceedings. Brenda's lawyer asked to approach. The judge denied it. The officers led Brenda out of the courtroom, and as she passed the gallery, she looked for the first and only time at
Said
Donovan
the
Banks.
thing.
He was sitting in the front row with Diane on one side and his attorney on the other. He met Brenda's eyes and held them. He didn't speak. He didn't nod. He just looked at her the way you look at something that has been broken and
the
set
door.
right with neither hatred nor satisfaction. Only the cold, settled weight of
Oh,
justice
he's fucking
delivered.
dying.
Brenda looked away first. The civil suit settled 8 months later for $175
This
million.
gamer will get everything, have this child.
Donovan directed every penny into the creation of the Banks Family
So,
Foundation for Aviation Justice,
Neon?
an organization
Zeno?
dedicated to passenger
Zeno
rights,
and Victor
anti-discrimination
fucking do all this
training
bullshit
for
for
airline
no
crews,
reason?
and legal support for families who experience discrimination during
reason?
air travel. Horizon Air underwent a complete transformation under Donovan's board influence.
Leon can't die.
Within 2 years, the airline was recognized by 3 independent organizations as the industry
okay,
leader in
creepy.
diversity, equity, and passenger safety.
Creepy.
The training program
Fuck,
Donovan
dude.
helped design became a
Okay.
model adopted by
Let's
14
go.
other airlines worldwide.
Spencer was a
Sophie
comedy
Renard was
evil
offered a
guy.
position as the
Really?
foundation's director of crew advocacy. She accepted.
Look
She
into
spent the next
this,
decade
the
training
Logan.
airline crews on how to recognize and report discrimination,
Virus is barcoded
how to stand up to senior
Oh.
colleagues
So
who
maybe
abused their
her
authority,
blood is
and how to put passenger safety above
cure.
career preservation. Captain James Rowan
Cure.
retired from flying 1
That
year
makes
after the
it
incident.
cure.
At his retirement dinner,
Nitrate
he gave a
comes in
short
little
speech.
glass vial.
He
Little
said,
glass vial,
"I've
little
flown
glass
40
vial, and a
years
little
and carried
glass vial
millions of
goes somewhere
passengers.
against
The only
enemy."
flight I can't forget is 274. I was
Hell
told
yeah.
too late. I acted
Buy a
too
signature
slow.
and password?
And 2
Oh.
boys nearly died on my watch.
M.
I will carry that for the rest of my life. If you take
Lock
one
up
thing
his
from my
elbows.
career, take
His
this.
chair.
When you see something wrong, you don't wait for
Papa's
someone to call the
chair.
flight deck. You
Smells and
act.
smells
You
like
act
crotchety
immediately.
ass.
Because 40 minutes is the difference
that's
between
a
life and
good ass.
death,
Let me
and you
out.
don't always get those 40 minutes
Okay.
back.
What else is in here? Oh, we know
Howard
right now?
Kessler,
Okay.
the man in seat 1. C resigned from Barrett Capital 3 months after the trial. The contracts Donovan had canceled were never reinstated. Kessler gave one interview in which he said, "I had every opportunity to help those boys. I had the power, the position, and the proximity. And I chose to finish my stake. I have to live with that." Leo and Lucas Banks grew up in Manhattan. They returned to school 2 weeks after the incident and were met by classmates who had seen the news. Lucas told his best friend, "My brother saved my life." Leo told his best friend, "I just did what Mom told me to do." As the years passed, Leo became quieter, more watchful. He developed a habit of studying people's faces, the way he had studied Brenda's on the plane, reading intentions behind expressions, measuring what people said against what they did. He graduated at the top of his class. He studied law. When people asked him why he always gave the same answer, because a 10-year-old shouldn't have to be his brother's only lawyer at 40,000 feet. Lucas's asthma improved with age, but never fully disappeared. He carried an inhaler everywhere he went, and he never once felt ashamed of it. He studied business like his father, and by 25 he was working at the Banks Family Foundation, expanding its reach into international aviation markets. On the 10th anniversary of Flight 274, both brothers stood together at a podium in Washington, D.C., at a congressional hearing on airline passenger rights. They were 20 years old. Leo spoke first. He told the story of that night in a steady, measured voice that silenced a room full of senators. Then Lucas stepped forward, and he said something that became the most quoted line from the hearing. The line that appeared in newspapers and textbooks and training manuals for years afterward. "When I was 10 years old, a woman decided I didn't deserve to breathe because of the color of my skin. My brother decided I did." The difference between cruelty and courage is not power, it's choice. And every person in this room, every person watching makes that choice every single day. Donovan and Diane watched from the gallery. Diane was holding Donovan's hand so tightly that his fingers were white. There were tears on her face, but she was smiling. She leaned over and whispered, "They're going to change the world." Donovan looked at his son standing under those lights, two young men forged in the fire of the worst night of their lives, unbroken, unbowed, and unstoppable.
I also can do this.
"They already have," he said, and he meant it. Because justice is not a moment. It is not a verdict or a settlement or a prison sentence.
Leon,
Justice is what you build after the fire, the foundation you lay, so that the next child who boards a plane alone is met not with hatred, but with humanity. Leo and Lucas Banks learned that lesson at 10 years old in the hardest way imaginable, and they spent the rest of their lives making sure no one else had to learn it the same way. That is not a story. That is a legacy. And it started with a 10-year-old boy who reached for an inhaler and refused to stop fighting until his brother could breathe.